Good evening, Zambia. Of course, today we have some more intriguing and intriguing stories because we are receiving some information, but it's not really that confirmed yet. So this is unconfirmed information. It really seems Honorable Bowman Lusambo has been arrested. Now, a few days back, right, we obviously witnessed Davis Chama get arrested. And at this particular moment, right, a lot of Patriotic Front members are pretty much living in fear because they are thinking that this could be a witch hand. And a while back, Davies Mwila did predict that a lot of PF Cadres would face the law if they lost elections. Now, is it because this is a tribal thing? And I don't even want to use the word tribal, because if you use the word tribal, right, that is totally not the case, because obviously, Davies Mwila did understand and he knew the illegalities that were taking place. So you don't really need to be a rocket scientist in order for you to predict that. Obviously, if the governance system sort of changes, then there's going to be some sort of, you have to pay your due diligence, if you know what I mean. So anyhow, in other stories, Tasila Lungu says that CDF is not enough. Now, this is very ironic due to the fact that we have seen a very huge increment with regards to the CDF, which has been allocated to various constituencies. So is Tasila Lungu entitled? And where the hell was she all these previous years when the CDF was like very, very minimal? Of course, she did give her own explanations as to why she thinks so. So please let me know, what do you think about this particular situation? And by the way, finally, President Hichilema has flown private. So is he getting comfortable, and are we going to continue sort of witnessing him use public transportation, especially with regards to, having flights? So these are the many things that we are going to be talking about today. So you are obviously invited. If you want to be part of this conversation, the link is in the description box below. So share this video right now because we are about to have a blast. We are going to be talking about everything. Share this video right now on your timeline and in 5 different Facebook pages. Of course, I am going to be inviting you, the citizens, because Z Corner is a platform where people can get to sort of vent and basically, you are going to be giving us your opinions, because here we don't really want to spread false rumors or propagandas and all that stuff. We want to hear from you. So this is one of the reasons why we want you to participate. So if you really want to be part of this particular program with regards to all the different topics that we are going to be talking about, please check the pinned comment in the comment section below. Then you can be part of this particular YouTube channel. So while I wait for my panelists, let me just play you a clip from from the past with regards to Honorable Bowman Lusambo's pending cases, because Bowman Lusambo, it really seems akashitana akafika, and he's got a lot of different cases. So this case is obviously coming from way back in the day, right? And let's listen to Honorable Chimba Kambwili explain and narrate what happened.
Of Obed Kasongo, who was beaten and hacked by Bowman Lusambo and group during the run by elections. Mr. Kasongo died today upon arrival at Levi Manawasa Hospital. Since he left Luansha, he has been...
Yeah, so let me share it right now. Let me just play it.
Ilo twaile ku police twali batumine ba human rights commissioner selemone file chitika. Ilo bamukuma wile kuli Bowman not umuntu umbi Bowman minister kaidu mwina ala ilumbati ni bulldozer. In fact bulabu ino bushiku ife achitike mwele kala chalo. Bowman aile papa police ba muista ba minister mule yakwiso bushiku na babantu muni nabo. Ati no twayamu kuchita patro. Elo bamwatenchi to yenu wa minister kuyamu kuchita patro. Weleleni kukampu kumie. Mwala leta fefi ongo mule ingila. Ilo baile sanga abantu besu bafuma mukutwala kaidu wa president bali kulia twalina okuchita distributor ma polling agents Muma centers mulya Monsiba yayikala pamona ba Electoral Commission of Zambia overnight. Nombaka subabali tukenye okupita mu ba police alipantu muli ba president. Imyoto kashine disi tabale shituminisha. So lidaba fumine mu bushikolo twaile nomba twali abantu. Ekuya kumanya bena Bowman ukuboma okubateta. Umuya shamwe bano kumati Bowman bali mane buzz. Efe mwinga nchitefi bane ba Bowman. Ebe mwipaeni kill them. Ba stupid aba. Anina na motoka. Ilo baile ku police. Aisa Bowman police. Pamba no kutintana na obedale mwe bati ni wongu minefi. Munefi unde pawili. Ba police bakano kuikata Bowman. Ama dockets baisula bakano kuikata. Umulumendo pwabwelela mu kulusaka teta fe omutwe. Nafu omutwe. Ayafe kuchipatala kumutwe. Mpaka mailolo wachililemo. Efi atushile. Na pano tulela nda Bowman tabala mwikata. But now they shwana statements over 80 witnesses have given testimony to the police of what abale abantu ni Bowman na abantu bakona Bowman umwini. But pantu Bowman ni minister. Can we?
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was Honorable Chimba Kambwili narrating what happened back in the day. And of course, if you turn back the hands of time, a lot of things happened, and if you look at Honorable Bowman Lusambo's situation, he's got a lot of pending court cases, So let me just take you back one more time, because it seems the PF Abanensu, and we are going to listen to Stephen Kampyongo back in the day, and he's basically going to be, giving us some eye-opening stuff. So I can see people joining. So if you want to be part of this conversation, I have pinned the comments, the link that you can use to join us. So let's listen to Stephen Kampyongo right now.
Ifyo bangibale nona mechi kuchikwi ero nefo kulaya ukuthi ayifwe tatuwa mana luse nga watowe funde kukufulula tatuzalayo.
Okay, so let me also play another clip from way back. This is Honorable Stephen Kampyongo back in the day.
Abatira forward babwela nzukutano for abashana kalela so mirasa kamana ifo umuntu ngalipompwe kukwita na nguwa likwatishe ndalamu kukwita twakukola kesi so twakwita chisawo ndololefo waibire proti abantu na mayanda washitire walaisa na abantu chisita ngombe usemo chawa inenda na yai wabisa msenda bozo kushate mtu alenda ndololefo na ibe kutira chile muntu wesukala kuletera pomwani bali boko twakutumo kubombere cha nocho kwa kuibire cha never fit so urashukuru mwa umvire bamwida bagapokola so londero refo wachitire yo bako ina abantu shanye isabe tukuti uretira yo kaisi no kamura na mbogo pom Mwishibilanza. Kuila walanda kwa pokolola. No mawalanda wairisha leo tuwafuni komwe buteko. Twakuita isa tukuipushe ati yo mkwai mwakase kwa mama. Yafata kwa ta size. So iwe mwanalele kwa pati tunshi ya ufi. Bantu bali pena. Ala tunshi atulawinisha abantu wa election. Bambinga wa mu State House. No baba kwa mafoni. Nama namba bali kwa tapa mafoni hapa pele kutwa atipale abantu myanda ne myanda. Baba kwa afya. No baba abantu bali muri ya yama register twali mpesi. Na abantu na bamuno milimo ya PF election. Tetokalela ndamala ndakanwa iyo. Nemilimo ishere chimuna Afrika kuti akushekwe na mwadishwa. Na twende mlango tufatwe n'otwa. No koma alisha David kwa wakasauka wafu panganda wacho mkwa inomba zinde kadisotwe ule kutombe kuikara kwa ngulu tombe na foku pangolo pai mwalisha para bashitata tuyumfu kucha nomba
Okay, so that was Stephen Kambyongo back in the day talking about how the law should be, should be used to sort of keep the rules of the land intact. So kwifunde takwa bati yoni bashani nomba chapara kwata kashana kafika. Anyway, let me ask my panelists to help me decipher this, because I do not really want to give you some sort of propaganda. I want to hear from you, and this is one of the reasons why we have this particular platform. So, me, brother Mark James, how are you doing? Good evening. Mark James, Mudipo. Okay, it seems hi, how are you doing? Your picture is frozen. So let me ask Emmanuel. Emmanuel, good evening. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm cool. How are you?
Very, very good. So what is your take? It seems, well, this is unconfirmed information. Bowman Lusambo or what do you think about this situation, and what's your take?
Well, each and every person who commits a crime, regardless of what their status is, they have to face the wrath of the law. So, if the law demands that Bowman Lusambo should be investigated and prosecuted, then let the law take its course. Because if we are going to leave these high-profile men to say simply because they've got a high status, then we shouldn't investigate them or even prosecute them. Then it means the rule of law is not being implemented fully. So if these guys committed crimes which they need to be answerable whenever they're needed, let them face the law and let them be prosecuted. That is what the rule of law simply says. So let it be. If there is a pure evidence that these guys really committed crimes, let them face the wrath of the law. There's no two ways about it.
Thanks, Emmanuel. Unfortunately, you've got so many things going on in the background. Can you kindly just minimize the background music playing, because it's a little bit it's just distracting us. So anyhow, while you're doing that, while you're fixing the background noise, let me pass it over to Tiki. Tiki, good evening, and how are you doing?
I'm good, brother Mona, and how are you doing?
I'm very good. So what is your opinion over the topics that we're having? And at this particular moment, we are discussing Honorable Bowman Lusambo getting arrested, even though this is unconfirmed information. So just keep that in mind. So what do you think about this whole situation?
Well, for me, it's there's one thing that the previous regime really took for granted, and the fact that they took power for granted, they took advantage of it and exploited the rest of the nation. They did so in broad daylight. Okay, most of these crimes were done in broad daylight. From their speech, they really insulted the intelligence of the citizens. And for me as a citizen, okay, as a young person in this country, in this country, I would like to see the rule of law, okay, being applied, because I do not want to grow up and be a leader like Bowman Lusambo, a leader like Tutu Angulube, okay? I do not want to be a person that would come and injure fellow citizens simply because I've been privileged to have a certain position in life, a certain public position. And I think it's if all these arrests are going on fair ground, on the rule of law being applied, on crimes being investigated, I think for me it's a very good lesson, especially for us, the younger generation, because it will tone down on the precedents that was being set by the Patriotic Front government. Okay, so I'm very interested in what's going on. The same way I was interested in issues around Bill 10 and whatnot. We were among the youths that were very much engaged, very much active, very much who who are following, okay, so that we know what's going on in our country. We know how our rights are being treated. And I'm very much interested to see the results of these arrests, because I think as a country we need some healing, and part of these arrests will bring the much needed healing, because a lot of damage was done to us, a lot of damage. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Tiki. So just continue, stay with us, because I've got like a lot of questions. But first of all, let's give opportunity to other people. So, Brother Mark James, did you fix your issue? You're back?
Yes, Muna, I'm back. Are you able to get me?
Loud and clear. So go for it. So what's your take over this situation that we're having?
Yeah, over the arrest of Bowman Lusambo, I'm not aware. In fact, it's news to me. But if that is the case, I'm not so much disappointed about that, because whoever is arrested, whatever their reasons behind their investigations, which are being done. So it's just a matter of, at the right time, to prove their case. The law is clear. If they have committed something, the law will visit them. If they are pure, there's nothing which will happen to them. They will come back. There are just issues which they need to answer. So over the arrest of Bowman Lusambo, the law will take its course. But one thing I would want to say over these arrests is that mostly those people who normally say that this is somehow witch hunt or politically motivated arrests, somehow I do not believe into that. You know that when you are in a public office or in a government, whatever you do, people are watching. And at whatever level, you find that there are people that you are representing. And it's not everyone who be to your side or who support you. There are people who are genuine, who would want things to move in the right way. So whenever you go off guard, people will observe, will see what is happening. So at the right time, they will tend to bring those issues. So these are some of the issues which are being brought back. So all those who are involved, it's just a matter of them trying to exculpate themselves. Let them prove that they are innocent. Otherwise, the law is impartial. Then on the issue of Madam Tasila Lungu, no,
yeah, well, before you get to Madam Tasila Lungu, hold on. Yeah, we'll get to that as a separate topic, because there's a lot of things that we need to decipher as far as Honorable Bowman Lusambo is concerned. So in the meantime, while I prepare the audio, let me just play one more thing from Honorable Bowman Lusambo. So this is an audio that I'm going to play of Bowman Lusambo about, early 2021 or 2020. He was basically saying, so do you think he knew what was bound to happen to him if they had to lose power? Did he know that they had done a lot of, despicable things, and that the law would visit them if they lost power? Is this one of the reasons why like, for example, you heard him make that statement saying, when you're stealing, it means you're stealing for the future. That was him saying that. And then he also gave us this super analysis, where the things that he was sort of anticipating if they had to lose power. So let me just play this clip from Mr. Bowman Lusambo from way back in the day.
Hapo soup ya coach space pokopa belt province tatwishire mkwangara kuno bariki tatwishire mkwangara kuno mwadidi hapo soup ya nkoko nabe pita wa mayo soup ya nkoko ai elo white side toni chafi soup paruli elo bapwe bati imapupa bwali tuwa bitsuminita what are you implying? What I'm saying is, for me, we have tested this power. It's not easy for us to just say, okay, send them.
And this is a very great important point that a lot of would-be politicians should know. Papa Bowman Lusambo Badandati, for me, who has tested power. So one thing that we should urge, even by UPN, is when you test power, just know that, you know, it can vanish like that, literally like that. So you have to conduct yourselves in a very good way, because sometimes power then the law definitely catches up with you. So anyway, let's continue.
You know, for me, na rimwe fenavo Everest reports twalirushira elections nokulira ine nalirira sana so ngama kuti nalira again.
Okay. So you are saying winning the election at all costs.
We are going to win the election at all costs, because
does this include even the use of violence?
All right, so that was him basically displaying his confidence with regards to the whole situation. So we are having the usual suspects. I can see Brother Jason. Who else do I have here? I can also see Janet. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to be joining our live stream, kindly turn on videos. Us getting to see you, at least it gives us some sort of credibility, and we don't want to have trolls and people who are going to say despicable things without them showing themselves. So kindly turn on your videos. If you want to be part of this live stream, turn on your videos so that we can see you. So that's not you know, just anybody like that. So anyway, Brother Jason, what's your contribution to the topic?
Good evening, Brother Muna.
Evening.
And good evening, fellow panelists and the viewers.
Good evening.
I think my take on having Bowman arrested, we don't know whether that is true, but for sure we are looking forward to see the rule of law being applied. I think I just want to speak with the people who are saying, no, the current administration is all about witch hunting and so forth and so on. No. What we should all understand is there is the rule of law. Kwaliba ifunde lyefunde kuli abo abashayishibwa. Ichechirela ngokweba tingefirandire ama previous panelists to say every one of us, regardless of whatever position, regardless of whatever height, you can go in this life. Still more, you are subjected to a jurisdiction of a particular nation. Because if we begin to say some individuals, they are not supposed to be subjected to the rule of law, then it means we are going to crumble our own nation. So, on the issue of having or hearing rumors about having Bowman Lusambo being arrested, it's not something that people can wonder about, because this is the fact. If somebody is found wanting, or if somebody is suspected, he or she, as a Zambian, even Naifwebene, you can be caught. So it is up to the court. After they scrutinize you, they find that you are not guilty, then you are scot-free, just like that. So subjecting somebody to prosecution, it's not something for and commenting on the statements that Bowman was saying to you know, me, Brother Muna, and the fellow panelists, including the viewers, me, that's why I always say that I don't trust somebody. I trust him. No, that person is humble. Wait for that particular individual to start having moolah in the pocket. Wait for that particular individual to test the power. That is when now you are going to see the true character. That's why it is taking us back to what we've been talking about to say. I think the rule of the game must change in Zambia in as much as the adoption of political aspirants are concerned. We need to be scrutinizing them properly, like it is being done to other developed countries. Because if you give somebody power without integrity, this is what happens. What is just there is abuse. Somebody who doesn't have integrity, if he's amukubaponi abuse, and giving power or privileges, kumuntu shashwokchita aso. We want to acquire, so the only solution they have, what ta acquire like Fideture Mona Davies Mwila. Umuntu kuchakureka ngachalande party wa Davies Mwila na bakwatana fitere fyango. The only solution that they can think about in order to protect what they never end at is just to eliminate somebody. So we are saying, as Zambians, I'm sure, we have learned something. PF has shown us to say when we become careless, especially as electorates, this is what happens in a country. So that's why we always preach to say, as the current administration comes, even when we are going to have the future adoption, let us begin to look at the people's caliber. Let us begin to look at people's integrity, and to be able to ask ourselves that, is this person able to deliver for the people? Is this person able to assume a position of higher calling with that servanthood within himself? Mwalasanga okweba ati abantu abakweba ati baliberesha efyakupokapoka. They are not people to entrust with power. What happens is abuse, and in the end, we lose lives, like we witness. We lost a lot of lives, which we don't even want to be mentioning names, because it is like, as other people are saying, no, we are trying to be tribal. No, we are not trying to be tribal. Like you have seen ourselves, we are a mixture. We are a mixture of ethnic background as panelists. We are not trying to be tribal, but we are trying to castigate hooliganism, which we witnessed in the previous regime. And the last thing that I can say is the problem, I'm sure, which we as Africans have, especially as Zambians, we don't want to copy the good values from other people. We don't want to embrace change. Tatwaya kuchinjako fimwe fintu background. Tuambo kufichita scrutinize. That's why abantu bamo na tumona, because of politics. Because somebody understands to say, if you are in opposition, you are in a pressure group. So I chenga shani ndarama pali difference ya 19 million mwe wantu wakwalezi. We've been hearing some MPs, they are saying, no, the CDF that the government is proposing.
Brother Jason, we're going to get to Tasila Lungu a little bit. Let's just exhaust the Bowman Lusambo case. So just hold on to your thoughts. Yes, we'll get to that topic. And thanks a lot. I'll get back to you, Brother Jason. Let's pass it over to Janet. Janet, yeah, you are next up. Yeah, the first lady, by the way, in a very long time. So, unkare olimba. Unmute yourself. You need to
Let
unmute.
me unmute myself.
Yeah. Then go
Am I
for it.
clear?
Loud and clear. Go for
I've decided to join this group because I've realized there's no female.
Yes.
So we are not presented as women. That's why I decided to say, okay, let me join this group. Otherwise, I've been following you from the very start.
From 2015.
And I'm excited.
So
Yes.
2015. All right. Okay, good. Lovely. Thank you.
Okay, but shall consistent kunumoku. But when you just put yourself in full gear, I've been following you. Otherwise, I like your articulation of issues, and I like the boldness of the members that come to contribute here. Indeed, it will take courage for us to condemn and to teach and to instill values in our leaders. It will take courage. If we cower away because the wrong things that were done under PF, we are being scolded when we try to rebuke them, when we try to bring them in the open so that they are discussed openly. Then when they try to scare us to say we are being tribal, then we bury our heads in the sand, then we are doing ourselves a disservice. What we must do right now, when you hear them say that, just know that they are feeling the heat. And we have to continue to tell them the wrong things that they did. Bowman has to be told the wrong things that he has done, so that our current crop of leaders don't do the same mistakes. We don't want to go back to the situation that we were in under PF. We don't want. That was not nice. That was not nice. And so, apparently right now we have a government that is promising us a lot, and rule of law is one of those promises. I mean, we can't ask for more. Rule of law means that everyone is equal before the law, Muna, and everyone listening to me. Everybody should be judged by the same standards. Nothing like this one is a minister, this one has got money, this one has got connections. There is nothing like that. Otherwise, if the current legislature, no, not legislature, if the current executive does not do the right thing, then, I mean, we are going to see a problem in them. Then we'll say that they are compromised and we are doomed. Right now, what people must do is that they should investigate the cases. Like President HH said, investigate thoroughly all the cases that are there. And I'm glad he's not poking himself in the business of investigations, in the business of, legislature, whatnot, maybe judiciary. We have total a separation of powers this time around. And so we appreciate that. And we want our men in uniform, or is it DEC, all these law enforcement agencies to do their level best, because I mean, our powers, our hope, everything is in them. They should not be scared. They should not be scared. And we are not going to be scared to tell them, to point at the wrongs that they did. You know, it was too much. How are we going to heal if we don't talk about these things? How are we going to heal? We will not heal, you know. We have to actually mend. And we need to talk about these things. In that way, we're actually getting closure. Because we're told, no, people should not retaliate. We should not return evil to evil. Thank God we have such a president in Zambia today who says, no, don't do that. Don't fight. Don't do what. But the best way that we have is to point at the wrongs that these people did. We can't just keep quiet and pretend everything was okay. No, people died. People lost their loved ones. How are they going to get closure if we can't talk about them? How are they going to get closure if people who killed other people are going to walk scot-free? If those who attempted murder are just going to be looked at and then they walk away just like that? No. I feel Bowman and any other, whether he was a minister, whether MP, whoever they are, they must face the full wrath of the law. If they are found guilty, they should be sentenced. They just have to go through that process of the law so that they are cleared. We don't wish them bad. We just want them to be cleared, they come out clean. But we must find the killers of the people that we lost. We must find them. And Bowman if he has got cases to answer, let him just answer those cases. There's nothing tribal about what we are doing right now, Muna, and all the panelists who are here. There is nothing tribal. We are doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you a lot, Janet. It's very soothing to hear a female perspective over things. So we are glad that you are here. But anyway, let's pass it over to brother Oscar from Italy. Welcome to the show, sir. I don't know whether he's frozen or he's hearing us. Brother Oscar. All right, okay, let me remove him. Who else do we have here who hasn't spoken? So King B, go for it. As usual, you
Good
need to
evening.
unmute yourself. Yeah, we can hear you now. Good evening.
Good evening, panelists. Yeah, my contribution on this one, though I don't have full information over the arrest of Mr. Bowman Lusambo, but as if this man has committed the crime, as Mr. Chimbakambwiri was narrating on that video, this man, yes, need to be summoned and questioned over the allegations or that incident happened in Rwanda. He need to be questioned, and he need to give us answers if he really did that what Mr. Chimbakambwiri was saying. And some people, they are saying it's like a tribal arrest, something like that, which is not true. We should, because if someone has committed the crime, whether Bemba, Ngoni, Tonga, if committed the crime, should face the wrath of the law, or should face the law. Not whereby when someone has committed a crime because his Bemba should court free. No, it's not about that. I think that's what I can say.
All right. Thank you very much for being very brief and precise, King B. So we're going to go to this next part of the show where we just, give ourselves quick takes. So now, my panelists, you've got about 90 seconds or less to give your conclusive, remarks. So anyway, before we jump into that, Emmanuel Ipanga, welcome to the show. How are you doing? And what is your contribution?
Thank you so much. I'm fine, and how are you there?
We're doing good.
That's good. And how is the whole panel there?
Everybody's good. Get to the contribution.
All right, thank you so much. The contribution is that there's a question: Bowman Lusambo arrested or to be arrested or whatever. I think I really concur with the madam. I've not seen the name, of course. I've just come in.
Janet.
What she has said, Janet. Yes, the law knows. The law doesn't know tribal. The law is clear. If a Tonga has committed a crime, has to be arrested. If Chimbakambwiri has committed a crime, has to be arrested. We don't want a situation where we have been seeing every time. Amena kubamarasha. Fast. Mupereka aenda na kukoti wapeleka na kuchimbwakaila vida vaso CDF funa wamene vabandrama na whether ni kugwira, no matter whether it was the defense minister, whether it was the vice president, whether it was the president, as long as the immunity has been stripped off. The law is very clear, and we want to encourage the president 887 to ensure that every case is followed to the letter and to do the justice, so that the Zambian people can be happy with the way the cases will be handled. So we don't want the PF to start talking about issues pertaining to tribe. That is an escape goat. They know very well that they have stolen a lot. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we exhaust the Bowman Lusambo situation, does anybody have any other contributions that you felt you didn't give out as many points? So, Brother Mark James, go for it. 90 seconds. You know the rules. Once you hear this sound, then you need to conclude.
All right, thank you, Mona. I just want to echo on this issue people are raising of being tribal. There are these arrests connected to tribes and so whatever. I think people should know that this time around the government is not trying to make a cabinet where they would want to balance, where they will put a Bemba, a Tonga, a Nyanja, and whatsoever. No. This time around, the government or the investigative wings, they are looking at, or they are looking for people, those who they presume to have committed offenses. So those people, they think or they believe they've committed certain offenses. There is nothing like now to choose now that, oh, since this one was Rosie, now the next one should be Chewa, and nothing. It is not like that. It is only those people who have got those connections, and most of those people, they are the people who are in government. So if somebody can raise the issue of these tribal things, unless they want to tell us that the previous regime was maybe concentrated, or it was made of one tribe, or so to say, if that is the case. But what we are trying to see, the law is only following those that were in power, those who are looking after public resources. So if they mispriced, if they misquandered somehow, then the law is just trying to follow. The law will not be segregative to say that, or to try to look for a balance by saying that, okay, since now this one who have said to be arrested is a Runda, so now next, since the law, the next one should be this one. The law is not following in that order. It's just following those who held those offices and they are believed to have somehow misused or misappropriated the public funds. So there is nothing to do with the tribe here. There is no tribe of any kind. Maybe the only thing it could be that if there were 10 people who were in those positions, if maybe 8 of them, they were from one tribe, it might look as though it is tribal, but they are just following those who were holding certain positions and they are presumed to have committed offenses. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brother Mark James. So let's pass it over to Brother Oscar, all the way from Italy. How are you doing? Good evening. We're good. What's your point?
Thank you so much, Mr. Mona. Good evening, the panel, and good evening, all the viewers. Thank you. Here in Italy, the weather is very nice, though it is raining, but I think I'm comfortable inside. So that's cool. Anyway, I was, on the question of Mr. Bowman Lusambo, you see, I always question myself, I ask myself, I continue asking myself a question. Why these people were employed? I find it very difficult. And there are many people in the previous government who really raises a question mark when you analyze their professionality, really, and how they stayed there for 5 years, for another 5 years. It's very, very difficult to understand. So I think about our friend Bowman Lusambo, many things. He has done a lot of things. He is a witness of certain scandals. He is a witness of saying, I went to the president, or the loved president, the able president, Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, to ask for money, akasaka kandalama. Mr. President, you answered very generously. You gave us a lot of money. The money the president gave to Bowman Lusambo is not accounted for. We don't know how come. Bowman Lusambo is a witness of a lot of damage he has done to himself. And he is very close to another gentleman in the PF, which is Chimba Kambwili. The same philosophy, the same behavior. They are witnesses of multiple scandals. So it's not a strange thing that sooner or later the police would follow these gentlemen. I mean, we don't hate them. Nobody hates them, but I think it's their behavior. Their behavior is the cause of all these scandals. I would like Mr. Muna to use my Ichiremba, especially to talk to my people in the Luapula province. Pantineba Muna, if you can just look at my surname, Pombo, Lishina dia Benangumbo. Mwalibeshwa Benangumbo wa Muna.
Emkwai uvi sana twadivecheva.
Iwe ni wewe kopala iwe. Kopala muna. Na inene kopala. Chiwala ex chiwala boy. Natwale umfako bajakari. Natwale umfako.
That's the kwa wakuleka. Kwa afya wakustafe behave mu public. Bazinga muni mweka. But anyway, continue.
So number ine nalanda kumchiwemba makamaka abaneso abakulu apula. You know, abakulu apula abakusamfya abengi, they were very much deceived. Bali babepefingi bamune futufile twamona twalulikshap pali ino nshita pa Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation tabale chitapo tabale langishapo tumafyumu tuma scandals twa abantu tabalangishapo awe walangisha fyati our president Dr. Edgar Changwa Lungu, our president efyali abakusamfya shimwe fintu tabafyumfwa na abantu besu na bayama amagrandi shanyuko ama cousins besu ala tabafi umfwapo ututuma scandal tu ina nshishibe. This is my opinion, to help abakumusha tumbi tutumana tuma clips nista watu bikirapo pa Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation. It's a question that I'm directing to you personally. Pantu fyonse fira moneka kwati tuleti tikisha awe muri bamufimbira mureti tikisha fyo buteko bwalipo muri bankalwe awo yechechi ni munkalu efyo balela bakusamvya n'abakulu apula ofo balanda nabwekesha papalira clip yabala bashikuru bantu abakwete kwati almost 80 years abalandire ndi mukalamba ine ndi mukalamba ichalo chonse cha Zambia nachichula abantu bonse bale sakamano ko bati ubuteko tabulondolo ekeyo mamone abantu abakaele. What is the problem? Ne problem nshi ayama scandals yako bati baya ikato minister defense baya ikata nomba bakekata ba Bowman Lusambo katwishoro bakafika pali Kampyongo katwishoro bakafika kuri bakanganja aba bantu ala finge fyo bayitumpiremo fingi nomba ngatabaleba abantu abakumyeso abakumusha ngatabale balondorwela bwino bamuna inefonde mona. There is a danger intent, a hidden intent of some of these is to divide Zambia. Umlandu wakulandira kwati yo balefwa baletuka kafwe babemba balefwa baletuka kafwe baku Northern Province fwe bakumuchinga aba bantu abaku Southern Province bankalwe twalabika pone mfumu shesu nemfumu shesu wano vaba mfumu twalala ndapo na bachitumukulu relation pali bachitumukulu balilandire fibisana pali Hakainde Hichilema nomba lelo na abantu baku Northern Province balalanda shani bala pela shani umuchinshi bala mona mushani ifisuma mufyo balekonka abantu aba onawiri abasendele fyuma fya chalo bala fimona mushani ati ubuteko bulefayo kupoka fefintu basendele kwabula ukwebe chalo basi bafibwekeshina ku chalo epela ayama programs bamuna nango apa pene tuli pa flow apa abeso abantu beso abakusamfya na kumushikura kwini kungumbo kulya kubangwe ulu tabalipo pa social network bamuna nomba nakalimo pa Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation probably iyi information inga kwaba kuka program fyaka kubati kwena muchiko fe suggest mule chako suggest bakabike po fenango feni 30 minutes na turondolwe lyabantu ifire chitike milandu ya chalo ala chika bafirishako na totela bane
Twatotera sana. So anyway, before we move on, I see some people rolling through. So Luva, good evening, and what's your contribution? Give us your quick take, and we'll move on.
Yeah, by the way, I'm calling from Washington. I'm on lunch break right now. I'm just happy, man. Let's get this rolling, man. Let's get the system rolling. To begin with, what the system is doing right now is rinsing. There's been a culture for years of stealing, people getting away with stuff, thinking stealing is the only
Can you
thing,
remove your face mask? We can't properly hear you.
I'm on break here. Now, can you hear me? It was a little bit muffled.
Yeah, it's still muffled, but go on, just make it quick. 90 seconds.
So, yeah, so what I'm saying is I'm excited. I'm really excited. Some of us will live in a culture where what's this, corruption is not embedded into the culture of living. You are subjected to a system where you only work and appreciated in communities and societies like that. What the new Dawn government is doing right now, I can tell you, this is a rinsing process. We are cleaning the country. We are cleaning. We need to read all these things. I'm on radio here. I didn't want to use certain words here. But let's rinse our system. Let's rinse our system and bring all these leaders. They are fit to fire. They need to be held accountable. Enough is enough. We have seen this, and we have to take petition now. We have to start taking petition. All those court cases that were lingering in the previous governments, we need to bring them before before justice, so that justice can be saved. We've been taken for a ride for a long time. We need to rinse the system, and the system. If there is another proposition that I can make at this point is to make sure that we review some of the weak laws that have been perpetuated in our system for a long time. You know, I'm just excited. I'm just looking forward to make sure that some of these cases are provided the attention and the justice that they deserve. That's all I can say, man. So
all right, thank you.
We just need to support the system.
Thank you, and enjoy your break. So anyhow, to my fellow panelists, I see Brother Jason needs to add some more. So let me know if you need to add anything else. Brother Jason, go on.
Thank you, Brother Muna. First and foremost, I just want to commend Sister Janet to join us as one of the panelists. You know, it is important to have a lady coming on the floor and be able to represent Bafaweza. You know, Sister Janet, thank you so much. I just want to concur with Uncle Oscar, what he has said concerning the culture that is actually propagating tribalism in Zambia, and especially amongst the Northerners and the Bembas. That's why, Brother Muna, I think kalife narepita mokali akakosa sana. And through that, I think God has privileged me. Ukwikala komunche ndesha lekana. I've been to Luapula. Actually, I was at Nchelenge High School. That's where I did my secondary school from grade 10 to 12. I've grown up in Luapula, Mansa district there. Again, after nafuma kulia nalikala ko mkopa belt naliendako, I've interacted with abanenso abatonga aba na abalozi. But one thing for sure, I learned one thing. That's why they say whatever that you don't have, the only way that you do, if you are not appreciative enough, if you cannot commend what you do, you just demonize. You know, it is high time that we should start preaching what is supposed to be done, especially from where we come from. Kumalwa Pulo kuna Northern Province na Central Province. Because it has been said for such a long period of time to say, no, ababantu, tababa wino, and the like, something like that. But according to the experience that I have with them, like I told you, me, I've married a Tonga. I've married a lady who's been raised by a Tonga. Somebody was mentored by a Tonga. And the way I relate with my Bapongo, who are the Tongas, you know, it's something that you can appreciate. I think the only thing that we have missed is the fact that if you have a vision to say, I need to do this, I need to achieve this and that, and then Brother Muna, all the way, wasat dabafo muntu Aisa, would want to benefit epotali mine. kwali bechibemba babonfya kumyensu kukwe bati nibakatiete mwenda mwalimwa. Meaning they are a kind of people who just want to enjoy certain privileges which they don't want to work for. So I'm sure apa vera problem yakwe bati nachamfako program imo pa Facebook apa pene whereby somebody was trying to, it was just a video clip whereby somebody was trying to sensitize the Zambian, actually it was in the church, to say there is no way you can envy somebody and you even start competing with that person who are and if you they have a culture whereby namu pere ngombe shibiri ale kula nafyo elo iwo wise iwe nangu ni nkoko tabakupera po wamwanaka tabakupera po nkoko yakwe batule kula nafyo. There are certain sayings abakulu bemboku yakwe bati we mwana ngole kula bala muna kwati tawakakule ifibe mbatu yakwe bati bale bomfyo kwe bata maya nanina. So even the uncles, they can't even have that responsibility to see that a niece or a nephew is being raised, is being supported, is being mentored until that person gets mature to that level. But Molasangati, Abanensu, they have a culture which even make them to be on the vantage point wherever they are. Now, coming to the issue of Bowman Lusambo, Brother Muna, I wanted to say, that's why exposure sometimes, lack of exposure, kabulwere. Ngatualolesha pari Arakeli in the United States of America. But Arakeli has got money, not the money that you might think about. He has money. But when it comes to application of law of law, the guy is being incarcerated. Regardless of him having a lot of cash, regardless of him having a lot of dollars. So now, if we continue with the trend, if we continue conserving, that's why I say, chimwenta mbioso chita conserve whereby nangu muntu aisa yo mureba pero mchinshi bali ni baona lebo yo mureba pero mchinshi bali ni banani. If we continue conserving certain culture, actually certain cultures are bad, of which they just need to be dropped so that we see what works for the developed country begin to work for us. Now, if we just continue supporting things anyhow, because if we support an Stone Age, it will mean we shall continue remaining like this. And we shall continue just witnessing if my open pits, because of the lack of leadership, because of the lack of understanding of certain issues, because of the lack of how a society must be developed. Because one of the resources on Ishbaba Muna and the fellow panelists, even the viewers, one of the resources which can make a country to develop is the application of the rule of law. Because if you apply the rule of law equally, there will be efficient use of resources, and of which even human are also resources. Now, if we allow hooliganism, if we allow certain individuals to begin to think that they are more human than others, it will mean we are not going to develop as a country. If we are to move forward as Zambians, these are some of the things actually we should sensitize even our brothers and sisters. Kuma mushikulia ukwebati ifunde tarifu ile atoroko muntu. That's why I say, even if my own mother ngabanchita infringe on certain things, I just have to come out straight to say, no, mwintikisha o because ukufiala mwintikisha o because to alifiala ne mama brothers and the sisters. So what we can tell the Zambians is what is happening as at now, because everyone saw it. Sorry for those people who are unable to see what was happening actually. We are so sorry, but if you are a sticker, Tafiawe mumwebantu bakwalesa. Ichalo was almost gone into ashes. Like Brother Muna always say, it was almost going to be a banana republic. So no mbanga chakwe bati abantu baimangefi to start speaking on your behalf and to start advocating on certain things that can benefit all of us. we have to stand on our grounds. We have to stand with those people, support them, so that we see these culprits being incarcerated, so that even the new legislature which has come in place cannot do the same things, cannot repeat the same wrongs which we saw in the previous regime. I think I submit Brother Moon and the fellow panelists.
So before we move on to the next topic and continue talking about other topics, does anybody have other contributions concerning Bowman Lusambo before we close it? If you do, just raise your hands. If not, we can move on to the CDF and the Tasila Lungu conversation. All right, so Brother Oscar, give us your tungwe, a quick one.
I just would love to add on one other thing. Let's be careful with the sort of psychology that the PF are using. When you follow, like Bowman Lusambo now is under investigations and the like, a simple and cheap philosophy they're using is to accuse HH and the UPND government, says, you are fighting, you are hunting for revenge. This is revenge. We said this before, that this guy is going to start revenging. This is not the way you do politics. Politics is a good game. You have to respect the others. You don't have to do the witch hunt. It's a cheap philosophy they use, so that Akwata, he becomes guilty and say, well, even on the appointments, the new appointments that the president is making, let's not fall. We hope our president is not going to fall into a trap of feeling ashamed of pointing our brothers and sisters who come from the southern province and the southwestern province. Let him not feel guilty for that. Let him do it. He has the right. So, let us help the youth, and also some of us who are in the diaspora. Let us help Fidalanda Elas Muisha. Let us help Uyuna Chisungu. Uyuna Chisungu HH nifuevo turemufunda tuwevo nifuevo twaifialile. Lekeni tumufunde na Chisungu wesu. Let's defend him. Thank you.
All right, so now we are going to be moving on to Tasila Lungu's statements, rather opinion with regards to CDF. So according to her, she says CDF is making less than 3% of the total budget, and she feels, for example, her constituency, Chawama, is not really going to be able to get the full benefits of with regards to the different developmental projects that they are going to be making. But anyway, let me just allow her to give us her thoughts. So let me just play this.
Listen to another voice, the honorable member for Chawama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for according me this moment to take the motion. Madam Speaker, I first want to thank the Minister for presenting the budget. The budget, when presented, it looked very impressive. But Madam Speaker, as I analyzed it, I saw that some items may need to be revised. I looked at CDF, which only accounts for 2.3% of the entire budget. Madam Speaker, this money is simply not enough because the scope of work has been expanded. I'll give an example of the roads in Chawama. If we had to build roads in Chawama, the minister came here, the Minister of Infrastructure, and I commend him for that. He wants to reduce the cost of the roads. At the moment, they're costing us about $1 million for 1 kilometer. Let's say, for argument's sake, that we reduce it to maybe $500,000. In that amount of money, for Chawama, we would only be able to build 3 kilometers worth of a road, meaning the amount for CDF would have been depleted. So if I look at the women empowerment and the youth empowerment, it wouldn't be catered for. And the government promised jobs, Madam Speaker. So to be able to bring those empowerment programs and be able to train the people and give them the skills that they're needed, that amount of money is not enough. Then I also noticed, Madam Speaker, that there are some groups of people within our society that have been left out. I'll take, for instance, the disabled. Madam Speaker, they're not mentioned anywhere in the budget. And Madam Speaker, they have a unique set of needs. They have different subgroups among them. I'll give an example. For instance, maybe the blind, they might have different needs. Sorry, let me just use a different term. The visually impaired. And then also, there might be other groups that might need wheelchairs, for instance. So the allocation has to be a special allocation only for them, just like the other groups have been allocated, other groups that have been marginalized in our society. Madam Speaker, in the First Republic, there were specialized schools for the disabled. In these schools, upon graduation, they would have employment in government as well as parastatal companies. In the Second Republic, there were tax incentives. The companies that were able to employ disabled people received tax incentives. Madam Speaker, just like any other group, they need to be spoken for. And I spent so much time on them because so far, of all the debates that have been delivered, nobody has represented them. So, Madam Speaker, I'm urging the minister to reconsider, really look at this special group and their needs and address it. There's another group that has been left out. Our men have been left out, Madam Speaker. We talk about empowerment and a gender-balanced society. We cannot talk about gender and leave out one gender. As it is, we are disadvantaged as women. But if we continue with the trend, and we've been doing this for a long time, all of us in here are guilty. We've been looking at the women and what they need, but we're not looking at the other gender. We have to balance the scale. If we don't balance the scale, we'll find that it has tipped over. Now the women will have advantage, the men will not. It will put all of us, once again, at a disadvantage. Ask the women, as well as our daughters, our granddaughters in the future. You'll find a situation where the boys have been neglected, the men have been neglected. They won't be able to contribute. As we can see, most of the household, as it is and culturally the way it has been in this country, which I personally appreciate, fathers and husbands have been head of households. To continue with that culture, or at least to balance it out where both of us are equal.
All right, so let's just end it there. The main thing that we want to talk about is obviously the first point that she raised with regards to I'm a CDF. And before we even jump into the CDFs, right? To be honest, I really want to know, where was Tasila Lungu? Where was Emmanuel Mwamba when a lot of bad things were happening? Obviously, a lot of cadres, PF cadres to be precise, and cadres in general, were obviously harassing women, you know, the vulnerable people. We remember that story where we heard a woman who was literally, almost beaten to a very despicable state because she was putting on red regalia or some sort of red attire that was kind of similar to the UPND regalia, you know, and she didn't say anything. She just kept quiet. She never said anything at all. I've only seen Tasila Lungu being active recently. So what really happens to people when they are in power? Do they forget about being, ethical and morality? She never used to say all these things, and all of a sudden her light bulbs have switched on. So anyway, before I become biased, please, panelists, help me, decipher this CDF talk and just give me your opinions. So Tiki, you can go for it.
Yeah, it's very mind-boggling to see how these people have shifted and how their language has changed. Okay, Tasila and the rest of the PF guys were lavishing in royalty. They were lavishing in money, okay, in power, and they forgot what it feels like to be Zambian. They forgot what it feels like to understand your neighbor's challenges. They forgot what it feels like to be a third world country, okay, to be a developing country. And they got so comfortable that they forgot all the troubles, all the sufferings that Zambians go through, the daily hustle. Okay. And for me, I think she's politicking because under PF, CDF was 1.6 million kwacha. And she said nothing. I stand to be corrected, but I've never heard a comment on CDF ever. Okay. And the UPND government has increased the threshold. And this is a call for jubilation, especially among the youth. Because now there's plenty of room for development. There's plenty of room for empowerment. Okay, this is something that we should all welcome and start to prepare ourselves as young people to benefit from. Okay, to register cooperatives, to belong to cooperatives. Okay, to register companies. Okay, but if she's going to say no, that money is too little, again, she reminds me of the words of Bowman Lusambo saying, no, 2.5 million kwacha is pocket change. It's pocket money. It's because these people are playing with so much money to a point where the millions to them are nothing. Okay? But to an ordinary Zambian, that is enough support. That is enough empowerment. Okay? And for me, I feel we are treating the PF with kid gloves, okay, as a nation. Okay, we taught them a lesson on August 12th, but I think we still need to panel beat their thinking because there's a serious problem there. Okay, and for them to stop this politicking, I think we need to give them the true picture. It's like voting them out was not enough. Okay, voting them out was not enough, and therefore we need to give them a true picture of actually what they did to us. Okay, we need to correct their thinking and bring them back to Zambia because clearly they were not living in Zambia. Okay, and she needs to stop her politicking. Moreover, all these cases sort of link her father to it. Okay. All the corruption cases sort of seem to, under PF, they seem to have power from State House that seemed to interfere with all the prosecutions. And therefore, I think if I was Tasila, I would very much be reserved and fear for what is coming because a lot she has to worry about. Okay, we may not talk about these things in more detail, but I think there's a lot, even just in our communities, and that's where the danger is. The PF were so open in what they were doing. Okay, they didn't fear anybody because they thought they were going to be in power for life. Okay, but there are a lot of things going on. There's a lot of development, a lot of buildings people are doing, property establishment, and these are all things you can question to say, but how does a councillor build so much? Okay, there are a lot of properties in Lusaka, and the communities know these things. So we just look forward to the rule of law actually visiting some of these things because we don't want to be a generation that will inherit the type of leadership and teachings that the PF government taught us. Okay, we want to get back to being Zambian, to being accountable, to working hard, and working hard not in being a cadre, no, but working hard, equal opportunities. That is what we want. Therefore, we look forward to the law actually visiting these individuals because this is the Zambia we want, sanity. Okay, the Zambia we want is free and fair, corrupt free. That way, even our economy will boom because look at all the misappropriation of funds that happened under the PF. And all these guys were quiet. Tasila was quiet. Look at Honeybee. She said nothing about it. Meanwhile, that didn't just border on the economy. It also bordered on people's lives, people's health. Okay? But I've not heard any PF person apologize. There are no apologies from these people. There are no apologies whatsoever. And I feel we still need to panel beat their thinking because they still feel they can get away with it. And my big brother was very right. in what he said earlier. We shouldn't play to the PF's gallery of them trying to play the victim. Okay? And we should say it as it is. The PF were criminal, and they criminalized the entire governance system. Okay? They persecuted citizens. We lived in fear. People were scared to speak. But thank God our votes counted. Thank God our votes brought back sanity. Let us support the government of the day and ensure, because as a youth, one of the reasons why I voted PF out, because I want to see the rule of law being applied. Okay, I want to see sanity restored. I want to see corruption being dealt with. Okay, those are the things we look forward to. CDF has been provided. CDF has been increased. We need to see MPs giving information to their constituencies on how they can benefit from this CDF. Okay, and how as a youth we're expected to champion the sensitization of CDF, because a number of youths don't even understand CDF. They don't understand the procedure of how to benefit from CDF. And looking at how they ran things in government, look at how voter registration was mishandled. Okay, look at the issue of Bill 10. Look at all these important topics we've had in the past 5 years. PF was nowhere near in educating the citizens. PF was nowhere near in giving the citizens the correct information. Okay, they sort of rode on the ignorance of the citizen, on the illiteracy of the citizen, on the lack of information of the citizen. Okay, but we are free of their clause. We are free of the PF's clause. Therefore, we need to stand up as Zambia. We need to continue standing up. A congratulations to every Zambian that voted PF out. Okay, even those that didn't vote, but.
All right, so it seems Tiki's page is, well, internet issues as usual. So anyway, panelists, Tasila Lungu, CDF. And my other question to you is, why do you think she is the first person to say that CDF na icheba? You know, obviously, and do you think she is sort of complaining due to the fact that there won't be any favoritism? So when she needs to do too much developmental projects, there will be you know, some sort of facilitation for her to achieve or rather get more. Why do you think Tasila Lungu is the first or amongst the first people to say CDF yachepa, when in fact CDF now increased on a multiple scale in comparison to the previous government? And when she was explaining, right, she obviously did talk about the fact that a lot of developmental projects had highly inflated prices. So do you think this is maybe one of the reasons why she's one of the first people to complain about the CDF? And just give me your basic opinion with regards to the CDF situation. So who's going to go for it? Brother Jason, go for it.
Hello, Brother Muna. Thank you so much. I think Tasila Lungu, she still can't believe that the father is no longer in power. And maybe, you know, these guys, they were not prepared as entirely PF. They were not prepared to be out of power at this particular moment in time. They thought whatever gymnastics they did would work for them. But unfortunately, all the things they planned, they flipped. So, but Tasila Lungu, if I wish I was Tasila Lungu's, I would advise actually, because looking at the budget, CDF budget adjustment, from 1.6 million honestly to 20 fimo, you can even be ashamed to stand actually the ones who were closer to somebody who was holding the instruments of power, no kuimata CDF ya chepa. with that difference margin. I think Tasila Lungu, from my own understanding, is some sort of confused. She doesn't understand what she's talking about. Even if she's talking from the artificial inflation point of view, I think that one, Bamu pushing she was never prepared to go into parliament and be able to contribute effectively and be able to speak for the people as she should. So kwati Tasila Lungu, in my own understanding, Sabaira because of a lot of confusion, frustration. Otherwise, if she's somebody who is in a right state of mind, she wouldn't even stand, because she can even be ashamed. She can even be wondering to say, and to go further and ask the father to say, Dad, what happened in your regime? I look at the different, what has happened? But somebody honestly looking at the huge difference, again, rose up and stand to say, CDF yachepa based on how things are going. What she should know is the current administration is not going to tolerate artificial inflation. It is not going to work. And secondly, the current administration is not going to tolerate awarding contracts to some people because you are related to this one or that one. If you aid when there was a fundraising party for the president, he really even cautioned the civil servant to say they should exercise professionalism so that at least we see efficiency in the manner the resources are going to be utilized. Because for our own information, actually, she should even say, in a constituency, and actually Kairi, she was campaigned for, so I'm sure she was even going to say, I think the people train 50% we sending in a constituency, so that there is too much development. Now, if she's looking at Zambia being in Lusaka only, then she doesn't understand what she's talking about. Because actually the people who are supposed to stand and rise and be able to say CDF, Kachepa, and justify it properly, there are certain constituents. Like I can talk of Luansha Central. Luansha Central, if you look at the town itself, Muna, have been able to see what is being posted on social media concerning Luansha town. Ama portals all over the town. Somebody who is sensible can't even stand to say, CDF Yachepa. I'm sure she has got her own personal issues, and maybe it's because of the confusion and a lot of questions that are going into our mind to say, what is going to happen of my father when that immunity will be lifted? I think that's what I can say. She doesn't understand what she's talking about, Tasila.
All right, thanks. So let's pass it over to Emmanuel Ipanga. Brother Emmanuel, your contribution. Tasila Lungu, CDF.
Thank you so much. First and foremost, I want to congratulate Tasila Lungu for the great job which she did standing by her father during the inauguration of HH, because the mother was not around. She did a very good job as a daughter. Now, looking at what she's saying, I thought the way she stood firm for the father during the handover of the power of instrument to the president, the new president. This is the time Tasila Lungu was supposed to at least try also to talk to the father that what happened during their regime was very bad. Coming to CDF, I think Tasila, before even talking to that, I expected her to give a background of the previous CDF, what she did as a councillor in her ward. What did she do with the previous CDF, which was 1.6 million kwacha? Deriving from there, she was now supposed to add more flesh on the skeleton to say CDF is little, because in our time we did this, we had this. I'm very much disappointed with Tasila to talk about the CDF that it is the little. How little is the CDF when it has been increased from 1.6 million to 25.7 million kwacha? If she is budgeting, giving so many, coming up with so many projects within her constituency, that's a very big mistake. This CDF is expected to come in every year. If she has so many projects, she can only tackle a few of them equivalent to the amount given, not to tackle everything within that money. And this is what we usually hear from the so-called PF Cadres there. She talks about Insone Ubuntu. Even Tasila, she should have that in her mind, not only to say CDF is little. What has she done to see that CDF is little? The 25.7 million is enough an amount to do wonders within a particular year, according to that amount given to that constituency. A lot of people, before the budget came out, there were speculations, even on social media. Others were saying 4 million. Others were saying about 10 million. Alas, when the budget came out, it was 25 million. No one expected that. And we should appreciate the new Dawn government. What's supposed to be there now to say, we expected Tasila to say, oh, this is a good move. Despite that, we have so many projects. I think we propose that next year, 2023, we should see to it that the budget is increased because of high demand of projects that needed to be done within the constituency. I rest my case.
All right, so let's pass it over to Brother Oscar.
Thank you so much, Mr. Muna. I think when I listened to Tasila, this is now the second time she has been speaking, and even the first time she spoke and was ordering the people to do the 1 minute silent prayer in the assembly, I was let down very, very much. Limolimo okutuwa tontonkanya ati bushekwene esukuru batwebera tukia mu kusambirira esukuru lituletera finshikanshi bambi esukuru tati bachita bwino kwena. Anyway, having said that, about the CDF, well, she of course, if I was Tasila Lungu or if I was PF, I was going to advise Tasila Lungu to resign on moral grounds. Resign. I don't know how that lady is going to cope up with all these information heading to her father. I don't know. Personally, I don't know. If I was a friend to Tasila Lungu, I would have advised her to resign, not even to, when she heard that the father lost the elections, I would have advised Tasila Lungu, resign, and go and stay home or do other business, because this is an insult. What I heard from her mouth is more or less like an insult. How can you compare 1.6 to 25.7? That's what I'm saying. 1.6 to 25.7. Please, mwebantu. So I think well, it's just a question for her. It's just a question of commenting in the assembly. I think that was that was her key to do well, to say something anyway. Otherwise, there's no logic in whatever she was portraying. Anyway, what I would like also to say is PF, I think they'll find it very difficult because there will be accountability. Provinces, whoever is going to be there has to make accountability of how they are going to use the 25.7. It's not like before. Ninkwataka question. Hidden question. Bushe batasila kwena tavala yapo abantu abengi mupurumuri ya ine constituency yabo. Tebengi wala yati wali no kubapere fintu notuma programs notuma contracts. For me, this might be a problem that is going around and what is going up in her mind. Otherwise, mwewantu ushitasha walanda timwana wandoshi. I hope I'm not insulting anyone. Ushtasha walanda timwana wandoshi. Ukukana atasha tualina okutasha apa bonse na ba PF mwewa nensu na mwevo. Sambidile niko okutotela. Tasheni echi mwewantu. Afunyenda na mashonse kurusaka mwewantu. There is one thing that also you Zambians, please let us also focus on this. I'm a Chinese. I am not going to judge the Chinese as a people. I judge the way they do also business. They are full there in Lusaka. Now, by this moving the money from Lusaka and going to other provinces, Mwalamona, bonse valia ipiling afi Lusaka bonse. I'm a businessman, but China wa not vali Lusaka bonse. No mbenda na mashabwele na kunanikani kushangombo, kulwa pula, ku southern province, na ku western province no mbenda la mesho no mbala chishani mwala mona wala tampo kukuka wala. I just hope I'm a members of parliament, I'm a district commissioners, I'm a permanent secretaries wakatampyo kulosha pona filafine chala ndilo kwebati ndefa ya wakalakula ama clinic awakalakula tuma bridges wakabe ba mushangombo mulya mwine. We kalaisa we labwera no mboku fuma ku Lusaka. No, the company in Lusaka, we want now to invest here in Shangombo. Please let them go and invest in Lusaka momwine. Too much time, they have consumed a lot of resources which belongs to the Zambian people. Now it's time. Let the southern province enjoy their CDF. I don't know when the last time they gave them such lots of money, a lot of money. Let us thank HH. Let us pray for these DCs, members of parliament, permanent secretaries, the councillors. Let's help them so that they can make use of this money for the benefits of the Zambians. And this Vamuna to also console most of the youth who are crying for jobs. Jobs opportunities are coming. Mwema youth, come together, put yourself together, go and look for that small money which is coming starting from January next year. There will be job opportunities for thousands and thousands of the youth. I submit.
All right, so who's going to pick it up next? I see Mark James just came through. Brother Mark James, go for it.
Okay, thank you, Muna. No, I had a meeting, so it was a quick one. I'm back. I hope everyone have spoken, but I've got my own views over the issue of our Honorable Tasila Lungu. I think we've got a problem, I would say, in Zambia, if not in Africa. This issue where we are deemed or being called as opposition, I think there's a direct interpretation of opposition, meaning you just have to oppose anything the government has said. I think this is how many people interpret that. Because I'm saying this, I fail to understand on what point the Honorable Tasila was trying to come up about 25.7 million to be not enough. When the previous government, where she was a councillor, they used to receive 1.6. And no one raised the issue of no, it is not enough and whatever. They were doing other projects in the constituency, in the district with the same 1.6. Now this jumping from 1.6 to 25.7, really, can somebody say it is not enough? Much as we know that money will never be enough, but let's give credit where it is due. This notion we have in Zambia, because it is the government saying, whatever they are saying, it's something which is making sense, which is true. Then because it's the government and because I'm in opposition or because I have got different views, then I just have to object that this syndrome is very bad. And if we continue with it, believe me, we are going nowhere, we will not develop. So this has not just started now. Even the previous regime, there were certain good things other people could have said, other people could have done well. Now, because these who are not in the government at that particular time, with them, this issue of checks and balances, I think people do not really understand what these things are. Let us try to emulate others, like some of our friends from developed countries, where when somebody has done something, we clap. When somebody has done something good, we embrace them. Because that's what we want. At the end of it all, we all want to have got good things. We want to have good life. We want to have got good opportunities. So I don't see, even when it is, you are in opposition, if you can oppose and you cannot even say thank you to the CDF from 1.6, even when it is politicking, even in parliament, when it is just the matter of, in parliament we are used to hear about jokes and whatever. Maybe I can take it, it was just a joke, but it was a very bad joke. So that 25.7, yes, it might not be enough, but it cannot be compared. It can do a lot of things that the 1.6 was not able to do. So I don't know what the Honorable was trying, whether it was politicking as usual or it was a joke of the parliament that they always do. But certain things, once in a while, we take them seriously and we appreciate the good things that the government has done. Tomorrow we have another government. The other day we have another government. It will continue just like that. But where they have done good things, oh, this is good. Or where they have not done well, we say just like that. So we just have, as a people, we are one people, one Zambia, one nation. Whatever they do for the benefit of the majority. If they don't do as expected, same things which is happening in the previous regime, where the law is following those who have misappropriated the public funds. Even in this regime, in this government, if such things will happen, the next government which will come, whatever time, whether it is in 2026 or whichever year is coming, same trend will follow. So it's a very big lesson to these who are occupying this position now, to be transparent, to work for the people they represent, never to misuse public resources, because people's eyes are watching. The president said that there is an eagle's eye, and eagle's eyes are us. We are watching. Whatever they are doing, we are watching. So it is a very big lesson that let's try once and for all to work for the betterment of the people of Zambia, who put us in this different position that we are holding today. So this might take, very disappointed with Honorable Tasila Lungu. Even when it was politicking, if it was a joke in parliament, I would describe it a very bad joke. I end here, Mona.
All right, thanks, Brother Mark James. So before we exhaust Tasila Lungu and the CDF, because we are going to also be reacting to Raphael Nakinchinda's recent interview. Gentlemen, do you have any other contributions with regards to Tasila Lungu and the CDF? If not, we can proceed to the next topic. All right, Newton, I hope Chibuko, I hope you're sober. Yeah, mute yourself and then give us your opinion.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, All right,
okay. Tasila Lungu, CDF.
Yeah, I just want to contribute on CDF, the issue of Tasila Lungu. I think it wasn't a joke. Tasila Lungu planned at all. CDF Shan Yachep. It was a good answer to the nation. Of course, PF was behaving like that. Now, natural shock that Tasila Lungu ali aspect kwebe chalukuta abachashi bagotapali fibale itabale mnaka 1.6 was useless to the nation, and that's why naka 25 Kenya August to monakena bakamona was useless because 2 million was just shopping, was just money for shopping like Lusambo fibala and so it was a good answer to the nation. Tasila Lungu aishe naye na mu parliament to say no ka 25.7 chairperson. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. So, any more contributions before we move on to Raphael Nakinchinda? Because I think he had a very eye-opening sort of interview a few days ago, and I just want to give credit to the face-to-face, the candidates, and the respective people who made this particular interview possible. So due credit to the people who created this. We're just going to be reacting to it, and according to the copyright laws, it is allowed by law. It is allowed by law to react and add commentary to copyrighted content. So I just wanted to put that out there because anyway, let's listen.
That could have actually caused this country to make another huge leap towards good governance and strengthening of institutions of government by the amendment of the constitution through Bill 10. So if you ask me, would you advocate for it? Yes. If you ask me, would UPND go that route? I'm not sure because they have been very consistent in opposition to be changing goalposts when it comes to these things. They will say something that they feel is convenient for them at a particular time, and before long, when it is time for execution, they would abandon. And they have continued that same attitude even in government. Look at the many promises that they made in opposition, which they have backtracked on. Those that they are attempting to implement, they are attempting to do so purely because of the political pressure they are receiving through social media. Free education, for example, they made all kinds of pronouncements around issues of free education. Later on, when they got into government, they said it's not possible. When the young people rose up in protest through social media and other platforms, now they are attempting to create, an excuse through the provision of the, CDF fund that have increased from 1.6 to 25 million kwacha.
All right, so let me just pause it right there. What's the connection between UPND implementing, free education and the CDF? Like, gentlemen, did you understand the point Raphael Nakinchinda was trying to make, or he was? Let me play it back one more time because I don't really see the correlation and the connection between free education and CDF. But let's play it one more time. Then my panelists, you can give me your understanding of what he was trying to say.
So, politically charged to a point where even a good document that the Bill 10 was politicized, demonized, because our friends were in opposition. Then the UPND wanted to use everything and work with everything for political expedience. So in the end, we had a very good document that could have actually caused this country to make another huge leap towards good governance and strengthening of institutions of government by the amendment of the constitution through Bill 10. So if you ask me, would you advocate for it? Yes. If you ask me, would UPND go that route? I'm not sure, because they have been very consistent in opposition to be changing goalposts when it comes.
Yeah, so from here, just be very attentive, then we'll have a discussion afterwards.
So these things, they will say something that they feel is convenient for them at a particular time, and before long, when it is time for execution, they would abandon. And they have continued that same attitude even in government. Look at the many promises that they made in opposition, which they have backtracked on. Those that they are attempting to implement, they are attempting to do so purely because of the political pressure they are receiving through social media. Free education, for example, they made all kinds of pronouncements around issues of free education. Later on, when they got into government, they said it's not possible. When the young people rose up in protest through social media and other platforms, now they are attempting to create, an excuse through the provision of the, CDF fund that have increased from 1.6 to 25 million kwacha. And they have lumped all responsibilities that are supposed to be central government responsibility on that 25.7 million. And what will happen is that when free education is not delivered, they will then say, no, we provided money to the member of parliament through CDF. So it's a conduit for excuse.
Talking about the CDF.
Yeah, so before we continue, because he's also going to give us his opinion over on the CDF. So, Mr. Emmanuel, what do you think about that particular statement from Honorable Raphael Nakinchinda? What is your reaction to that?
Brother Muna, thank you so much. First and foremost, I know Nakinchinda very well from the time he was growing. To me, he's not a new guy. I understand him. I was with him at school. So I know the type of person. Even when he's talking, I don't trust him. He's just politicking. This guy has nothing to offer or to give the checks and the balances. Him is just there to talk things which are not of sense. When you look at the free education, I wonder, is he in Zambia? Because the UPND manifesto is clear, and following the way the budget has come out and the way the minister explained about the budget on free education, perhaps he was in Dubai. He was in holiday. He had a honeymoon somewhere. He could not hear or he could not understand what was said and what was going on. Definitely, only free education has been provided from grade 1 to grade 12. It has been provided. No fees, examination fees, no PTA fees, and so forth. What else does he want? And which youth rose against the new Dawn government, the so-called social media, which is trying to claim? Which youth? The CDF is something else. The free education is something else. So the youth who are supposed to benefit from the CDF, they are not in school. They are not in school. Pupils and the students are different from the youth who already completed their education. So I fail to understand. You're talking about the Bill 10. Which Bill 10? The buried document. It is from that document, actually, it's one of the contributing factors which has seen the PF get buried. inconsistency was with the PF, not with the opposition. Nakinchinda, he has been a problem even from the time of MMD. You have been seeing the way he has been behaving. You could go this way, and where did he end up? He could not. He ended up into a cliff where he is right now. He did not expect that PF was going to be kicked out. So already there is confused with the issues of the PF youth who are demanding for the immediate conversion, which they have taken to June. The youth in PF want that conversion to be done immediately so that they have a president. Now they are confused, they don't know what to do. Because of such now, it comes to talk things that are not making even sense. The CDF and the youth, the free education, they are two different things. They are not related, or they are not, you cannot marry them at all. They are two different issues. There's a distinction there, a very big distinction. So Nakinchinda should learn to understand, even the way he was talking about the issue of arresting people, what. It's like this guy is just creating a situation where you want to divide the nation on tribal basis. So for me, the issue of CDF and the free education, I think he has nothing to offer. I understand him better. I will rather advise him to go through certain things. If he doesn't understand them, then it's better he shuts up his mouth. I submit.
All right. Thank you. So let's pass it over to Brother Moses real quick. Then we will pass it over to Tonga.
Good evening. Thanks. How are you?
Very good.
Very good. Yeah. I think this man is like he has nothing to offer to us Zambian. They have got no direction. They should stick to rebranding their party. What he's saying is contrary. I was calculating 25.7 CDF compared to 1.6. When we divide there, the difference is 16.0625. You may correct me if I'm wrong there. That is the difference. Now, it's like he is blind, or those in PF, they are blind. If the difference can go up to 16.0625, then how can somebody, even Tasila, be compromising of the same CDF 25.7? We need to be factual as leaders. We are representing people in constituencies, and we are representing Zambia, the whole world. People are watching us. So let us do things lightly, not just because of politics. No, we need to show leadership. Personally, if maybe I had a chance to be elected to be either a councillor, a mayor, whatever, let me do the right thing, which people who voted for me are going to appreciate, to say thank you. Really, we had choose a good leader who is able to stand for the people of this province or of that province of Zambia in large. That's the leadership we want. Be it in an opposition now, independent, or in the ruling party. Let us not just debating negative things, which is not even helping to develop this country. No. Even if who is trying to say things like this is not how they do checks and balances. No. At least you say something whereby even us who are not in government maybe is going to convince us. But what he's saying is not giving sense. I think this man can just be silenced and talk some other issues. I raised my point
All
here.
right. Thanks, Brother Moses. Mr. Mtonga, you've been missing in action. We've been wondering, where is the man of the house? Where have you been? So let me just unmute you, then give us your quick take, and then we'll continue listening to Raphael Nakinchinda.
Oh, sorry, I was busy. Good evening, everybody. So,
good evening.
Anyway, talking about Tasila, I think she's just thinking that 25.7 million is not enough for her to steal some money from it. So basically, that's why she's talking about that. Because if you think about what they were giving before, it's because the most of the money went into their own pockets instead of going to the community. Even the 1.6, which UPND came and distributed, they didn't even know how to distribute it. Maybe they were thinking, oh, after they win, they'll just grab it to do the celebration for themselves. But they lost, so they didn't know what, they couldn't do anything with that money. That's why it survived. But otherwise, they were going to spend it after the, victory. They were going to spend it and, share it with the cadres and let the cadres go and drink it up. So basically, it's useless. They haven't got any sensible. What are they doing in parliament? Talking rubbish, which is no sense. So they better just as well, if they had a comparison with their budget, then we could say, okay, they gave 47 point, something million, but UPND has given 25, but this is 1.5, 1.6. And they didn't even give it to the community. No community really felt any money. Money was going into the money that Bowman and his friends were distributing. That's money which they, instead of going to the community, it was going to in their pocket. And the problem is now they think, oh, this money is, they are putting the community to come in and make decision over the money. It's not them themselves making decisions. So if the community leave it to them, that means the money gonna go into their pockets. Wherever PF is, there is always cartel. So let that money be done by the community, and the youth should be very vigilant in this. You youth, don't give up. You should be very vigilant on this money. Next year should be a lot of projects coming up with the youth and doing, all the businesses and the training. All this should be done next year. It should be a foundation, laying down the foundation for the youth so that they can begin to develop the country. Not doing politicking and saying the money is not enough. How much does she need? Hasn't she stolen enough? All that which Mukula tree she says she sold and all those things, why is she wanting more money? Apart that is already too much. Some people don't even know what to do with it. So this is just politics, playing politics when somebody hasn't got anything to say. So same with him. He's just what you mean he hates free education. He doesn't want to give the community. He doesn't want anything to the community. The PF don't like it. So they're trying to oppose things which are senseless. So these guys have no hope. And I hope in the next elections, they'll be make sure get some youth get to stand against some of these PF, Kavushi, and all of them where they are. Just go and campaign and get those guys out of power so that you can have proper fresh blood coming out from the youth and proper ideas, new ideas. Not these, they haven't got any ideas. They have nothing. They didn't bring anything during their time of reign. So these guys are just just waffling or barking like dogs which can't bite. So I rest my case on that one.
All right, thanks, Mr. Mtonga. So let's continue listening to Raphael Nakinchinda. Then we're going to react to his statements.
Actually, they have been talks going around that the reason why the government actually decided to move the responsibilities from the central government to the constituencies is because it would be easy for the president to be able to run away from his responsibilities, and also it's.
So this is about the decentralization aspect of CDF. So
central government responsibility on that 25.7 million. And what will happen is that when free education is not delivered, they'll then say, no, we provided money to the member of parliament through CDF. So it's a conduit for extension.
Talking about the CDF, actually they have been talks going around that the reason why the government actually decided to move the responsibilities from the central government to the constituencies is because it would be easy for the president to be able to run away from his responsibilities, and also if something goes wrong, it's easy for him to be able to blame it on the constituencies. Do you also share in the same sentiments?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, we have a president that is scheming to never be held responsible and to take responsibility on anything that does not work. So in this case, he will try and create a situation where, particularly the opposition members of parliament, we will end up being sacrificed on the basis that, for example, if the 25.7 million quota is not disbursed, though he's saying that it will be disbursed every year, but if it's not disbursed in the first place, particularly in areas where the opposition MPs are, that in itself will create a problem. But even if it is disbursed, the money is only a sweetener when you hear the figure at face value. But if you compare that to the actual responsibility that fund will carry, you find that there's nothing that has been provided. How much money would you need, for example, to facilitate the smooth running of schools by providing the required resource?
All right, I think he's drifting away from his earlier point. So basically, according to Raphael Nakinchinda, decentralization and disbursing of the CDF and basically getting to implement it, he says the president has done this because he doesn't want to be blamed and because he's lazy. So let me just give you a backstory of what used to happen. The clique of thieves. When we had centralization, right, they had power of where the money goes, who receives what, and how the money was distributed. But this time around, UPND has said, let's give the money, let's distribute it, let's decentralize it so that the constituencies can have full and total control over how the CDF funds are allocated for and used. But according to Honorable Raphael Nakinchinda, that's an issue. So what is your take over this particular notion? Anybody to take this particular query?
Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, Moses, go first.
Yes. My suggestion, or what I think is what the government, this new government has done is a correct way to do the right thing and to develop this country, because they have total block the clique of thieves. I have witnessed maybe just putting up a 1x2 classroom or a toilet ablution block, that no, we need to go to Lusaka, the engineering from Lusaka, whatever they call Ababa Sambirira from Lusaka, whatever paperwork and any other things, all from Lusaka. And when they go there, they spend limbika 1 week, marojes, na fimbi. So indalama, tashare kontroka winoawe. But right now, everything is going to be done in constituencies. So shiriendalama bare ona ora mukurara mukuryamo mafyo na fimbi kurya shwire shabombako fimbi inchito shimbi within the constituency. So if ifirera ndava mundara, I think ifirepera na sense out. I concur with the previous, the one who was Mr. Mtonga. So that is a good idea, Equate New Dawn. And we need to support this as Zambian youth, men and women, fathers, grandfathers. For us, this implementation is going to improve our living standard and many more to come. That is my point.
All right, thanks, Brother Moses. Let's take it over to Mr. Mtonga.
Well, this guy, first and foremost, doesn't understand why the president has done the CDF. He's thinking the president is trapping him. But it's only the people that are bent on stealing, they have been trapped because that money is not given to the MPs. That's what they should know. It's not for him to go and start dividing it. That money is given to the constituency, and there should be a committee that which will be running making the budget and doing everything that is needed within the constituency. So this guy he thinks maybe, oh, yeah, they're gonna blame me if this. No, this money is a beginning. It's a very good, it's a beginning of the development of constituencies. So you have people coming up with ideas. Everything should come and be put together. There's no biasness here. There's no UPND. UPND hasn't been given more money than the PF in their constituency. No, everybody has the same amount, and therefore, why should they be blamed? It's only the people that are afraid of, going to steal or maybe misuse the money. Then they must bring up the report. How the money is spent. What is it that we should see that the 25 million has done, so we can see that, oh, Kabushi or whichever is constituency, it's developed. If that doesn't tally, then he must be guilty of that. And the community in his constituency should should hold him to task to say, where is the money? Because if it doesn't account for it and we don't see any development, that means this guy, he's stolen the money. So we know that they've been exposed. Now they have no way they can steal, because the community will be literally up in arms against them. This is the time to just thank the president for doing it. And it's not because he's lazy. It's because the government has seen that in Lusaka, you guys have stolen a lot. You showed us PF, no money was going out. So now you have no way to steal. You want to accuse the president that he's lazy, he's giving responsibility to other people. No, it's supposed to, you don't expect the chairman of the company to be the one delegating workers to say, go and do this, go and do this. The CEO doesn't delegate, he comes, meets the managers, the directors. That's when they make decision. Board of directors. He doesn't go to the cleaner and say, oh, can we make a plan now how this business is gonna run from this end? No, that's the CEO. And HH has been a CEO, he's been a chairman. So he knows delegation. You got to delegate. Lungu did not delegate. He just left it open so that everybody can steal. That's what these guys are feeling. They just stole the money and nobody took responsibility. Now they can't even take responsibility of what HH is doing. They are afraid because they don't know what to do. They can't even know what to plan. Bowman already showed us that he's only got 3 people. For the whole big Kabushi, and you're telling me you have only 3 people who are... That's not your money. It's not your money. It's money for the community who want to see Kabushi developed, who want to see all those areas. And when I get to Zambia, definitely I'll be doing my own inspection. I'll deliberately go and see Kabushi, what has happened when I come. I'll just say, let's see what Bowman has done in Kavushi, because I have families in Kavushi. I want them to see the benefit of this. The youth should have the businesses. They should be trained. Nobody should be poor in the, should say, no, I'm not trained or what. At least something should be given to them. They can do in any skill that can be bricklayer, carpentry, welding. All these are skills which can be laid out, and let's develop Kavushi and begin to have people should have, why should you always go to Debonair to buy pizza? Why should you always go to ShopRite? Why can't you make Kavushi more for your own, just for the community? It's all of those are businesses which they should be thinking about. You develop your community so that the people are spending money within your community, and your community is making money for itself. And this is a cycle. It will continue like this. And the following year, another 25 million comes up. It should be multiplying. It should be increasing, not depreciating. By making this foundation, training, skills, and all that, then the following year you make people, the youth begin to put those practices skills into practice. So this guy has no idea what he's talking about. It's rubbish.
Right. And the other thing that I would love to find out is, like when these people are making these points, do they really get to think about it, or they think Zambians are so naive and so dumb that they're not going to add 1 and 1 to come up with a conclusive sort of understanding of what is at stake? Because some of the points that these people raise, they are so outrageous. You can't even comprehend, what is he talking about? And it doesn't even make any sense from any angle. So I don't know. Do you think they are so naive, or they think that we are so naive and dumb and stupid?
You know what? Because they took advantage of the Zambians when they were in power. Zambians looked dumb and stupid because these guys literally stepped on Zambians. The Zambians had nothing to do with their ruling. It was the dictator type of ruling that they controlled everything. They took the money with their cadres. They were the only people that were enjoying the country, So these have the same mentality. It's very hard to change a leopard skin spots. So these guys are having the same mentality, saying, no, but these guys should not even touch the money. They don't need to touch the money. They have no responsibility to be touching the money. He can be in the committee and suggesting what he can suggest. But the people in the community, they should bring ideas and bring them on the committee and let the suggestion be made and the budget be made that, okay, up to the penny, to the ngwe, let it be made that, okay, this money is spent in Kavushi. It's not going in anybody's pocket. Youth should start projects and all this. This guy has no idea. Which constituency is he in anyway? I would like to know his constituency so I can go and see what he's doing.
Right. So, Brother Emmanuel, what's your take on the decentralization of CDF? According to Nakinchinda, he doesn't like it.
Yeah, a clique of thieves, my brother, they always say they don't like it because the opportunity has been denied. Decentralization of CDF. In fact, when you look at the National Development Plan, if I'm not mistaken, I've even forgotten because of, I used to have interest to look at these documents, but because of the way PF was doing things, the fourth or fifth and sixth, the issue started with Manawasa to decentralize, to give power to the people, so that most of the things are done down there, not from the central government. And this is what we are seeing. Someone now is fulfilling what has been in all these national development plans, the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. I don't know whether we have the 8th one. Those are the issues. He doesn't like it because They are a clique of thieves. They would want every time to steal. They know how they have been stealing. Now that the money has gone to the owners, the people who pay tax, they are receiving now, they are receiving back their money. Most of the people who have been stealing, they are saying they don't like it. Otherwise, decentralization is the core. It's the core to development. And this is the development we are talking about. Let the people do the development themselves because they are empowered and they are receiving at the same thing. They are, they are benefiting twice or thrice, other than waiting for central government to be told what they don't know what we need at the word. They don't know what we need in the constituency. Why should one dictate what we need? They want to come and bring, for example, a very good example, these projects which come from donors. No, we have come, you start doing a honey project. Do we need that honey project? They'll come and talk to this blah, 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 train people. We train you so that you do the beekeeping. After the project has phased out, they would want to, that project will follow those who brought it. Because the sense of ownership is not there. It goes back. So with the decentralization, there will be this sense of ownership, because I've already seen MPs getting back to their people, telling them what this CDF is all about and who is going to benefit. I've seen some UPND members of parliament, area members of parliament, doing that. Yesterday there was a meeting for local contractors in Kalabo. There was a meeting for local contractors in Sioma. There was a meeting for local contractors which was rescheduled again for Kaoma. You know, things are happening very soon. Meeting for local contractors, small-scale local contractors for Kasempa. Why are they doing this? To sensitize the people together with the youth to understand how they are going to benefit from this CDF and what they are required to do for them to benefit from this CDF. I've not heard any PF MP organizing that. They are still in a dilemma. They are surprised. I don't know whether they are surprised or disappointed because they expected to be pilfering. But thank God that we have someone who has thought twice, who knows the pain, the poverty of people in the constituency, in the world, in the household, because he's coming from there. He understands this problem. And today, when he brings it back, he brings this CDF to the community. Then someone says, no, he doesn't favor the idea. It is up to him to help. Let him go wherever he wants. As we appreciate and we thank God that this continues. And we thank God for giving us a leader that is able to understand the will of people. We wish him well and God's blessings every time so that he is able to render these services to the people of Zambia, despite regardless of color, regardless of height, regardless of skin, regardless of tribe. The 1 million votes, it's a score. It's 1 million zero. UPND 1 million, PF 0. This is why we should understand. So these guys, they have nothing to offer. They didn't expect UPND to bring out things like this. Hence, politicking. I submit.
All right, so let's pass it over to Brother Moses.
Hello. I was calculating 1.6 million by 5 years. That is 8 million. I'm saying this because some of the people don't understand the difference between the 25.7 million and 1.6 million for the PF. Then I calculated the 25.7 by 5 years. That is 128.5 per year. Now, for this PF, even this 1.6, because of crooks, vukabwarara neshindarama tashareisa muma constituencies awo. Like here in Northwestern, I will try to consult. Then I will bring the tangible issue and what proper information from the ground, what had happened. Limbi muri 5 years, just 5 years ine kufumyako kunumoko. Limbi ni 1 year, nangu 2 years, nangu 3 years. Ndaramero shai safi. Kwalipo na ye imoshai sendarama shabwerera mufuti kurusaka because of the same creeds of thieves. Kwaliba inshira shimo esho bare pekanyama ababene shakwe bati they can delay chirendarama shaisa baba ko fimo bafinyanchirira na ababene ababa kuno bamoba in conjunction no bomfya chirendarama shasuka shabwereramo kudya so that bebe bwino nomba like the way government has done New Dawn government ichwe ndarama takwa kulabo kubwekera mwawe ndarama sha constituency specifically so tashifwira okubwekera mwawe nga kufirwa chawama constituency iri n'abantu abalimo baranda chawe na tufirwa tatukwete plan ndarama shayikara so that until plan yamonekea kwe bati ishindarama twarashibomfya uku limbini kumisebo nangu kuma schools pero shabom. Example given pali 1.6 kware bokwe bati limbi school direfu endaramesha 750,000 ukupwishe school limbi example yo nde perafi 1 by 3 classroom or 1 by 4 classroom no mendarama ni 1.6 muri 1.6 maskuru yanga eyobenga kura mu constituency, and if we multiply 1.6 million by 5 years ni 8 muri 8 maskuru yanga eyobenga kura then kurefwa kama off post kurefwa ika emisebo like mu compound kurefwa iko ma foot bridge nama bridges fya kwebati maybe yarefwa ikakwenda ramesha kwebati limbi CDF kuti yabombako panono then the central government come in and finishes that bridge pakwebati abantu example given like Sorwes Day is in Kimasar area, or may I say Kimasara ward, then Kamaramba ward the other side where Kansanshi is located. Now pakachapa pali bako akakupitira pofya kanono, it is now this time it is raining season nga yaloka bakasukuru bakolafirwa kupita pali kalaka bridge pakwe bati bakrose bese Sorwes Day ukufuma kweshiria filie fya parafilia constituency like ino kuti pavo kuikara panshi nokuta discuss mone abana efo barechura up, they are failing to cross to come and learn. So let's do quickly pakwe bati tupange oka bridge akakwe bati abana bare pichira po safe. We don't want to lose lives. If we implement if we antanshukuya pamo. This is how this government is going to work to improve the development of this country. I rest my case.
All right. Okay. So let's just listen to one more aspect, or rather a contribution from Honorable Raphael Nakinchinda. Then we're going to pick it up from there.
In the 1970s, after all this war, Patriotic Front is the first government to have invested not only for today's need, but also for the future. Look at the infrastructure in the transport sector, the airports that were constructed, the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport in Lusaka, state-of-the-art airport, international standard. Look at the Simon Mwansaka Airport in Copperbelt. Look at the Hanimonga Kumbura Airport in Southern Province, and many other airports that have been constructed. Some of them are main, airports. Look at hospitals in thousands, in terms of numbers. Hospitals, the main hospitals and clinics that have been constructed in Zambia to make sure that our people have access to health facilities. Look at, the education sector. How many primary schools, secondary schools, in thousands, hundreds and thousands of primary schools and secondary schools that have been constructed. When PF was getting into government, there were only 2 public universities. That is Copperbelt University and University of Zambia. Today, we have 8 public universities, and we're still counting. And also opened up to the private sector to start running universities as a way of contributing to the development of human resource for the prosperity of this country. So, I mean, the $11 billion borrowed in 10 years, looking at the level of infrastructure in all sectors of our economy, I think must be commended. Now, we are having a new government that was condemning PF in that regard, borrowing within 2 months to 3 months, wanting to borrow $4.6 billion for consumption to, as it were, do things that are populist in nature, to try and appease the people, whether it is for political reasons, we don't know. So the $4.6 billion is being borrowed for consumption. In simpler terms, to talk to the Zambian people, is like having a father who goes to put or pledge your house, the only house you have, give a title deed to a Shiloh, to borrow money to come and buy sweets, chocolates, and buy chicken for Christmas, so that he can look good in the eyes of the neighbors that he has given a good treat to his children. The children may be excited because they'll get a bicycle, chocolate, and all these things for that particular moment. But soon, and very soon, they'll start crying, in the sense that not only will they have eaten and finished the chocolate and they actually used the bicycle, but in the end, they would have lost even where to lay their heads to sleep. This government wants to commit assets that Zambia owns and gives Zambia's equity to always, be at a comfortable level.
All right, so I think let's just end it there, because there's a lot of misinformation, and Raphael Nakinchinda and the Patriotic Front have got a way of twisting things and kusambamo. So let's decipher the points that he brought about, and let's also correct all the misinformation that he has. In these little minutes that he's been talking, he's spread a lot of misinformation. So let's just decipher that and talk about it. So first of all, he said the 11 billion that they borrowed as a Patriotic Front is just justifiable by the amount of infrastructural developments that they have done. And he cited several examples. For example, the airports, universities, hospitals, and so on and so forth. So what do you think about that particular statement? Mr. Mtonga, you can go.
I can go first if you want. You see, the problem with him, he doesn't understand, because development does not need to go to the top. You see what I mean? If I build an airport and my people are starving, do I benefit my people, or do I benefit the people that are, the top guys who are enjoying the flying and going out and this is pathetic. He doesn't understand that the root cause of poverty in Zambia is because you are doing infrastructure to show that you are doing something, and when that something doesn't even benefit the people. For example, you look at the overbridges in Lusaka. What a pathetic design and useless kind of things to make. Those things are just a waste of money. They could have done a proper road expansion on those roads where they put those overbridge, which do not even make sense to me, because those things have just, they're just like I saw in the, messing up the roads. And to make matters worse, you look at even the furrow, the drainage system, all those drainage systems, those are foundational. Lusaka is flooding. Why? Because the drainage system is useless. I think you had the vice president inspecting those drainages. She even said these things, the poor design. So these were given to cadres. Cadres could not even calculate the flow of, fluid flow. They can't understand that thing, and they just make a furrow which does not even flow anywhere. So this is what he calls infrastructure. Infrastructure, you build an airport. Why not start from the root? Why are the people suffering? Because you are trying to show, borrowing from Chinese, you borrow the money and making the future kids to suffer again because they are under bondage of debt. You telling me that is good thing you did? There is no infrastructure that I can say, oh yeah, this is pretty. The roads you made, they ended up messing up. Look at, but I think you've been to Ndolas, you go at Jacaranda there. The roads have literally made ditches within because the contractors never had sense of working out the load and the material that they're putting there. They just put the tarmac, and this is hot weather, and it cannot, withstand that kind of, load trucks going every minute, every second. This guy has no sense. It's like he's trying to start. He doesn't want to start from the root where the tree is supposed to receive. He's putting the tree upside down, trying to see if it can grow quicker. This guy is useless. He doesn't see anything that is making the country waste. The country has been degrading from when Mwanawases tried to do that. From that time, they snatched it from him, and that's it. The end of things. They started going down. Zambia started going down, and there's nothing that they've done that the people could say, oh, PF really did some, except the cadres who are supporting that. You do an airport, to me, it doesn't support the village guy, the local community. Even not the village guy, even people, the poor in Matelo, do they even use the airport? No. The people who are benefiting is them wanting to run away and go steal and go fly out so they can fly out easily. And go
and the contracts and the Chinese people who got the contracts, because most of the people who were building these infrastructures, very few Zambians were able to.
Exactly. They don't even understand what Zambia needs. They were just interested of, let's have an airport so that we can come in and out freely. And they give you a contract to say, we're going to use the airport for meanwhile, first we're going to use it. So what is the purpose of a foreigner building an airport for you and saying, first I want to use it, then I'll give it to you? Because he wants to steal, to go, and he can come in and out without any, and they call that development. Development, my foot. This is not development. Development is what now is starting, because each constituency will be able to look infrastructure. Road work should be done, like my brother Moses is saying. Small roads, you have floods, that means the whole road goes, you lose, because the constructors who did those roads also, there was, I think it's Selenje somewhere there, the whole road got washed out or somewhere, because they were really not interested in Zambia development. Only the people that Zambians can make Zambia develop. Therefore, it is useless that the PF are boasting that they made infrastructure. No, the infrastructure they made is nothing. No matter how many hospitals you have, without medicine, what's the purpose of me building a hospital and to give you rotten medicine? What's the purpose? That's not. If people are dying and you're saying, I built this nice building, but people are dying outside. So this is pathetic. These guys were useless and they have nothing to say. They're just a waste of time. and trying to divert the president's agenda, which is to benefit Zambian, all Zambians, whether PF or not, they are going to benefit from this. So I rest my case.
All right, and just to add on before we pass it over to Moses, right? When it comes to these key strategic assets, like for example, airports, my question is, do the Zambians know what would happen to our airports if we defaulted on those loans? Before you answer that question, right, I also want you to take, let's talk about Indonesia and what happened to Kenya when they defaulted on Chinese loans. Basically, China helped Indonesia make some, some good strategic infrastructure developments along. Well, let's give an example of Kenya. They helped them, build like a very good area around the ocean, the borders, and all that stuff. So when they defaulted, they took over that. So China knows what they are doing. When we get to default on our loans, they take over. And if they do take over strategic areas, like for example a point of entry, which is the airports, that is obviously devastating. We've already seen what's happening to Zesco. Zesco is basically under siege because we have, we owe them a lot of money. So it's not just about infrastructure development and creating these things. We have to look at the the effect if we fail. It's more like and you don't have the capacity. The first thing that you need to do is, first of all, elevate yourself, increase your sources of income, and then you can start buying Range Rovers and all these expensive things. If you do not have the capacity to pay back the loan, then you might as well lose that particular, Pajero, Range Rover that you are getting. So the PF saying, we brought infrastructural development and all that stuff, but at what cost? And we haven't finished paying back these loans. So this is one of the reasons why we should be very, very careful when we talk about infrastructural development. And before we start clapping our hands. But anyway, let's pass it over to Moses.
Can I just comment one thing? It's like the father, you have no money, and then the landlord comes up and said, I want money. And then you say, you haven't got money, I'll take your child and go make him a slave. So that's what the Chinese would do. John Magufuli, the late president, he had to cancel a 10 billion contract with Chinese because they had the same plan which they had for Kenya. And the Sri Lanka had also been taken over. They have all lost their seaside ports because China has taken over. There's a number of countries, they've lost their seaside because of Chinese tricks. So that's what they've done. Why do they follow the port of entry? Because they know these are important strategic places. Therefore, they will hold you to ransom to say, unless you pay or else you have no airport. And it's like closing you out. So this is not an infrastructure he can be boasting about when he's still causing us to be in debt and causing the whole Zambians held on to ransom. So it's useless to boast of that.
Right, Moses. Then we'll take it over to Brother Emmanuel.
Yes, what is causing this? Just from what you have, the issue of airport is our readers, because our readers are too corrupt. That's what I can say. But mind you, for those who are listening, I mean, especially previous, even the people we are having right now. So I'm putting it light that our readers, as we voted for you, we ushered you into this position to protect and save the Zambians. If we have a good parent, just from Mr. Mutonga, a good parent can make sure that he secure his family first, his children first, not letting the family entering into a trouble. No. So readers, think wisely. Then coming to the building of airport, Zambians, we are 18 million somewhere there. Do a a calculation, Mr. Muna. How many Zambian out of 18 millions do use those airports, which Mr. Kachinda has just talking about? We need to sit down, analyze, and do the right thing. Don't just boast like a blind person. Sorry for me to use this. I'm not being inferior to my brothers and sisters who are in that area. It's not by their wish, but I hope God's plan. I'm just giving an example. Then coming to the health post or clinics, hospitals, building hospital without medicine. What are you telling us as Zambians? Are you fooling us? Or what are you trying to do? Let's not see Zambian that we are fool, we are stupid. No. We have been following everything just because we didn't have freedom to speak out. Wherever we speak out, just like Mr. Muna, our co-host there, the way you are working that side, if it was by then, I don't know, you could have been surrounded there, whether you are in the house or studio, before you come out from there. Na bafika kare, wa Commander 1 America, whatever. No. Tatufuire tuwabafiri hao. We need, and those people listening, please, Zambians, on the developmental issue, tatufuire tuwabika muna tribalism, tatufuire tuwa isonta, tatufuire tuwa tashan. Let us talk the fact. Apa ruvene tuwaranda chapana paruvana. Apa ribwino tuwaranda chapana paruvana. In that way, we are going to work well and develop this country in a good way, so that even abana besu fweba likonomba lini nama grandson abakaraisa, they will find a good Zambia. Imumaboko yaba PF, the country was like, I don't know, these foreigners, example given, Rwanda people, Burundi people, batira kwatamaka muno because of not protecting the first Zambians, the owner of this land. Batirarenga fyonsefi ni fwebe na abena Zambia batusala tuye mukulangira kwa abantu mu parliament, tuye mukubemini nakono kubaita protect rule of law awe ifwe ishirye ndarama mulandu watufumo turebikafi. No, we cannot have such leaders muri irenshirawe. We need leaders who are responsible, fearless of God. May I say those people who also fear God. Because in limbichirerenga kuba sana kwa tinifira fine bali ababa nesu ba makada na shani nama pisto na shani. No. Zambia is a Christian nation. Nga waishi bako na resa kula bako na katina ne fintu fimo no kuiva bali kanya mu Bible. So we need to sweat for sweet. I rest my case.
All right, so let's pass it over to Brother Emmanuel.
Brother Muna, you know, this Nakinchinda issue, I was thinking maybe at one point, Brother Muna invite Nakinchinda and People's Poor Party president who happens to be President Muriokera, so that they can debate. You will find that President Muriokera would be more sensible compared to Nakinchinda. Earlier on, I mentioned that I know this gentleman. I think even in his statistics, he's not sure. He just says in hundreds and thousands. How do you convince the Zambians? In hundreds and thousands, what do you mean? Universities 8. Where are those 8 universities? Western Province was promised a university. Is it there? Northwestern was promised a university. Is it there? People should be, no, this guy should be realistic. Anyway, these are kicks of a dying horse. They are trying just to find a way of covering their shame, which was which is the 1 million vote. The truth of the matter, when you talk of those flying over, flyover bridge or bridges in Lusaka, there is this one along Arikinkata Road. It was a mess after the contractors had handed over. From nowhere, someone came and advised the president by then, His Excellency Edgar Lungu, that the structure there was not okay. And indeed, there was one time I was driving that. If you are using the ground one and the other person, the other motorist is on top there, just on that point of meeting, if you are not careful, you are gone. Head-on collision or whatever might happen. So the president had to call the EIZ, Engineering Institute of Zambia. And those are the supervising guys. Where were they? All that time to let the contractor even hand over, even the consultancy firm, which was doing the consultants over, supervising that contractor. What was happening? So one cannot be surprised because those were the issues of PF, brown envelopes. When you look at them, they asked that contractor to redo that job, which was very unfortunate. At which cost? So most of these projects which Nakinchinda is talking about, where the figures were inflated figures. Who was getting the money? It's the same guys and giving the cadres those jobs to do the work. Most of the drainage works in Lusaka were given to cadres. The same when we talk of Max Chongo, this guy was doing some drainages in Lusaka. At one point he was interviewed. He had a company, what. But when you look at some works, the workmanship, very poor, short work. They leave the technocrats to do the right thing. They bring in cadres who do not even understand. Some of the cadres immediately is awarded the job. He sells to the Chinese. You will call a Chinese, no, I've got this project, give me this much, and you take up the project. The Chinese who assess the project as, no, not that much, but I'll be able to give you this. He takes that. This is what was happening. He talks of the mini hospitals. Yes, they are there. But what is there? It's full of air, no medicine. Medicine, they give someone a friend to supply. He supplies fake medicine. He supplies expired drugs to kill who? The Zambians. So that they do what? They continue consuming the money. When they, I'm wondering as to why they should be talking of things that they brought them, they have messed up. You go to the hospital, you expect it to be treated. You are just, you are given a prescription to go and buy Panadol, to go and buy aspirin, to go and buy, tetracycline and so forth. Even this is simple diclofenac, you go and buy. And when they even give you directions. Sorry to mention this. I was taking care of my dad at UTH at one point. They didn't have syringes. And they instructed me, go to Kabwata, there's this chemist, what you buy from there, don't go elsewhere. I told them, I said, no, I'll not go there, I'll go somewhere else. I went to Rivara. That's why I bought those things. Why directing me to a chemist? Was it the only chemist around that place? It means the same guys we're stocking their businesses. Airport, who is benefiting from there? Just few individuals. What revenue? We have not been told how much we are getting from those airports. Inflated figures. How many airports? They are just talking of Ali Mwanga Kumbula, Kenneth Keke, and this other one. I don't know. I've forgotten the name. In Ndola. Which other airport? Yes. Which other airport is he talking about? No, plenty airport. Where? You know, these guys, they are not stressed.
Right. It seems Brother Emmanuel has lost connection. But anyway, let's just watch this mini documentary with regards to how China and a lot of developed nations use they use this method to sort of enslave and conquer and basically just get to trap a lot of African countries. This is very important because I believe as Zambian citizens, we should be aware of what really goes on. So usually there are talks of infrastructure development and all that stuff, but we have to always ask ourselves, at what cost? So let's just watch this. I think we're going to be watching together with Mr. Mtonga. Let's just watch this mini documentary, then we'll talk on the other side. So please share this video because we need the masses to understand what is going on.
Sri Lanka, 2009. The president of Sri Lanka at the time started pushing to build a new port in a small town at the south end of Sri Lanka. Why? Because ambitious projects like this that promise prosperity make you look like a good, caring politician. The only problem was that everyone, including their own government studies, estimated that the port wouldn't be profitable. And when they went to their neighboring Indian companies for funding and construction, even they said the same thing. It was an economic dud then, and it's an economic dud now. But then the president announced that the project had been greenlighted, with the help of none other than China. The Chinese government's Export-Import Bank gave them a loan of $307 million. On the surface, this looked very generous. We're helping a developing country build infrastructure when other selfish countries wouldn't help. But it came with some clever terms. The port would have to be built by the CCP's preferred company, China Harbor, so that it looks like money is going to this developing country, but then it just gets funneled back right into the Chinese economy. So there's really no risk to the Chinese government and only upside. And another requirement was that Sri Lanka would be required to let the Chinese government know exactly who is coming in and out of the port. So they also get valuable intel on top of everything. The port opened in 2012 and the forecasts were right. No one was interested in this new port. With only 34 ships docking there in 2012 compared to nearly 4,000 ships at Sri Lanka's other port, Colombo. And its finances were in the hole. So the president went back to China for another loan, this time for $757 million. China agreed, but with the condition that the first loan of $307 million would go from a 1 to 2% interest rate to a 6.3% interest rate, a very steep hike. Then a new Sri Lankan president was elected and took over a country shackled in debt. Debt had increased 3 times to $44.8 billion, and by the end of 2015, they had a $4.7 billion payment due, money that they didn't have. So what did they do? They took out another loan from China, this time for $1 billion to help pay off that upcoming debt payment. The equivalent of you taking out a loan to help pay off your monthly credit card statements. Or in other words, it's safe to say that Sri Lanka found itself at the mercy of the Chinese government. Not at the point of a gun or at the crack of a whip, but through the double-edged sword of debt. It was drowning in debt payments and was left with an expensive port no one wanted to use. Their only option? Go to the negotiation table and hope that China would show some mercy and let them cancel some of this debt. Yeah, that didn't happen. And now China owns 85% of that port and managed to squeeze 15,000 acres of land around that port as well, which adds just one more strategic infrastructure project in China's growing portfolio around the globe. And where does China have their eyes set on now? Africa. The fascinating math behind macroeconomics drives some of the biggest decisions that affect our lives. Whether or not we should build this expensive port that might put us in debt to a foreign power. What country should we invest in based on projected GDP? Whether or not the Federal Reserve should raise interest rates or keep them low. And if you want to learn how it works, the best place to do so is brilliant.org. Their statistics course makes these concepts simple because the best way to learn something is not for other subjects. Countries like Panama, Colombia, Ecuador, 80s and 90s, the US and US companies use these exact same strategies on countries like Panama, Colombia, Ecuador, and more. As John Perkins laid out in his infamous book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. What is an economic hitman, and what is your story as an economic hitman?
Well, so Jake, let me first say that my official title was I was chief economist at a major international consulting firm. And I had a staff, and my job was really to use my staff and to identify countries with resources our corporations want, like oil and minerals and such things, and then arrange a huge loan to that country from the World Bank or one of its sister organizations. But the money didn't go to the country. Instead, it went directly to our own corporations, U.S. corporations, to build big infrastructure projects in those countries, things like power plants and industrial parks and highways and ports that benefited, first of all, our companies that made huge profits off these things. And second of all, a few wealthy families in these countries, families that typically rule the countries with an iron thumb sometimes. And they benefited because they own the industry, they own the commercial establishments, they own the banks, they owned all of that. And so more electricity, better electricity, more highways and ports, that helped them. But the problem was that the loans also the collateral for the loan was the resources that were still under the ground, usually, like oil that had been exploited. And so the idea was that they would take on these loans, and over time, they would allow our corporations to come in and take their resources. In the meantime, they had to pay off interest on the loans. And so most of the people in the country suffered terribly. Money was diverted from education, healthcare, and other social services to pay off the interest. So we'd go back in, usually under the guise of the International Monetary Fund policing organization, and say, okay, so you're not paying off your loan, so you sell your oil real cheap to our corporations without environmental or social regulations. Let the United States build a military base on your soil. Privatize your businesses, your public sector businesses, your education system, your water and sewage systems, et cetera, and sell them to our investors cheap. Vote with us on the next United Nations vote against Cuba or whatever. So it truly is a form, still goes on, of colonialism, but as you pointed out, typically without the military. Although the threat of military intervening is always sort of lurking in the background.
Why did the US go through all this effort to enslave these less developed countries, or LDCs? Simple. When you're a global superpower, you need a lot of resources to stay on top. Oil, energy, raw materials, places to put military bases, nations under your influence so you can call them up when you need something like votes at the UN, and so on. So what happens when a country you're going after can't pay its debts? You elaborated on it a little bit, but can you go into a little bit more detail?
We're so happy. We're just so happy because the IMF goes in and restructures the loan.
International Monetary Fund, for those that don't know.
It creates what are called SAPs, structural adjustment policies, and conditionalities.
Watch this video to learn more about the US's debt traps. Today, China is in a similar position. They are desperate for energy, money, and resources to continue their astronomical climb to the top. China has surpassed the US on oil imports, and China gets a third of its oil from Africa, along with 20% of China's cotton. Africa has half of the world's manganese for steel production, along with a ton of other metals needed for electronics. As China's middle class grows, their cost of labor goes up, which means that ironically, now they have to turn elsewhere for cheaper labor. Of course, having more countries side with you and not the US is always a good thing. And as Africa's 1.2 billion people urbanize at breakneck speeds, countries willing to risk billions to build infrastructure there could be facing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make billions, maybe even trillions over the long run. And it looks like China is the only one willing to take that risk.
What's happening now is China's coming in and offering better deals. I think the Chinese learned from the mistakes that Russia's economic hitmen and the United States' economic hitmen made. I don't think they're making those mistakes. They're going to make their own set of mistakes, but they're not making those. And so actually President Xi has gone on record as promising, and I've got in front of me right now the 4 points that he's recently made as a promise to any country where they go in. And you're quite correct that they go in and they bring in their own workforces, they bring in their own engineering companies, and they use resources as collateral, just as we did. But he's also promised that 1, we won't interfere in other countries' internal affairs. 2, we won't impose our will on other countries in any way. 3, we won't attach political agendas to assistance programs. And 4, we won't seek selfish political gains through our investment and financial policies.
So China basically saw everything that the US did and Russia did that these countries didn't like they addressed all their pain points and basically just flipped it around and got rid of all those pain points at a cheaper price.
Yeah.
Which brings us to step 1. Step number 1, offer to build infrastructure. You, the Chinese government, have your state-owned corporations and banks go to these less developed countries or LDCs and offer them loans or debt to build infrastructure. If there's no existing infrastructure, you start with mines, power plants, water plants, the basics. They will inevitably say yes to all this debt because debt is like rocket fuel.
This is exactly why Raphael Nakinchinda is very happy, and all these, sorry to say this, people who don't really have a long-term perspective of the importance of being free. This is what they chant for and they clap for, but they don't really see the end game. But anyway, let's just finish this, then we'll discuss later.
If the debt is used properly to increase productivity, more jobs, more products, etc., then there's a net positive and you can scale to the moon. The politicians getting offered this rocket fuel only see this good side. But as these infrastructure projects get bigger, more complex, more expensive, and require more forecasting from experts, that same rocket fuel that can take you to the moon can also make your nation crash and burn under all this debt. The same goes for any other kind of debt like VC funding for startups. Along with that, these African countries are like Sri Lanka. These are risky, expensive infrastructure projects that may or may not be profitable, so no one else is gonna fund it. These projects also look great for the local politicians because they'll look like the saviors of these nations, bringing in jobs, urbanization, and so on.
If you look at it from a governmental side, or from the side of politics, I would say that most politicians, especially in Africa, they really like it.
And lastly, this also looks great for the citizens because of those same promises of prosperity. So in a nutshell, it's an easy sell, and the countries practically always say yes. But again, you only give them the loan under the condition that it's Chinese companies that build out these projects at inflated prices. Therefore, the money goes from the state-owned banks to the LDC and then right back into the pockets of the state-owned enterprises.
That's why everything was overinflated. This guy clearly explained everything that Zambia has been experiencing. And if we let the people know that, look, as citizens, we know what's going on. I'm sure people like Raphael Nakinchinda, Bowman Lusambo wouldn't be boasting about the infrastructure development because we understand the playbook. But anyway, let's continue.
Most aid that the Chinese government gives, there is this ratio of 70-30 approval. 70% of the project has to be handled by Chinese companies and 30% by local firms.
It's a thin veil, but actually what usually happens is the U.S. government, through USAID or one of its agencies, gives the loan to the country, and the country hires us.
Yeah, that's what I found really clever was you're giving foreign aid, which looks and sounds really generous and helpful and altruistic, but then the money goes straight back into U.S. companies and U.S. contractors. So the country you're trying to help just ends up with debt and an infrastructure project that may or may not be profitable. Am I getting that correctly?
Yes, and the infrastructure project probably is profitable for the wealthy families.
If the project ends up being profitable, everyone wins. If it underperforms like Sri Lanka, you have more leverage over these nations.
Almost all aids or financial assistance that China gives to Africa is being backed or has to be backed by natural resources. Most countries have been in situations where, because they couldn't pay, it authorizes automatically the Chinese government to step into the country.
And this is one of the reasons why Zambia never ever gets to benefit from the natural resources that we have. You know, because they siphon everything out of Zambia. Because in those clauses, once we get to default on a loan, our natural resources obviously get to be, abused.
And then take all these natural resources, which they use as collateral.
Either way, this country will be under your influence. Step number 2, expand. Once these basic infrastructure projects like mines and power plants are up, they're gonna need other infrastructure like roads, ports, trains, power lines, telecom to support these mines and power plants. So rinse and repeat the process for those projects, getting the countries more and more in debt. Step number 3, cheap labor. Now that you have the basic building blocks of an urbanized economy, you can use Africa as China's new China for cheap labor. Think basic low-value add manufacturing for shoes, textiles, and other basic products that require a lot of labor. Step number 4, more expansion. That cheap labor will have to live, shop, and eat somewhere, so they'll turn to you for even more infrastructure, this time in the form of residential and commercial buildings. Step number 5, sit back, relax, because now you basically have complete control. If all goes according to plan, you, China, will have your fingers in all aspects of Africa's economy, the fastest growing region in the world, from every segment of the infrastructure to the continent's debt. When you look at Africa today, this is pretty much exactly what has gone down. In 2009, China surpassed the US as Africa's largest trading partner at around $200 billion per year. Africa exports around 15% of their goods to China. Think raw materials like fuel, lubricants, iron ore, metals. And Africa imports 14 to 21% of goods from China. Think more advanced stuff like machinery, transportation, telecom equipment, and so on. So they have a very productive relationship. China has invested a staggering $300 billion in Africa. That $300 billion has funded 40% of all infrastructure projects that have been happening over there, with the help of over 10,000 Chinese companies operating in Africa, valued at over $2 trillion. Or in other words, China practically has a monopoly on all the construction going on over there. Any construction project you see in Africa that is higher than 3 stories or longer than 3 kilometers in terms of roads is probably being done by Chinese companies. The reason is simple. 1, it's written into the loan, and 2, African contractors don't have the capacity for huge construction projects, and Chinese firms undercut Western firms on price. There's the $3.2 billion 290-mile-long railway in Kenya, the largest infrastructure project in the country. There's the $3.5 billion 470-mile electric railway in Ethiopia that became engulfed in corruption. There's another light rail system in Ethiopia funded, built, and operated by China. And suspiciously, one of the countries that was highly vulnerable to debt distress, Djibouti, which had debt swelling from 50 to 85% in just 2 years, gets the honor of hosting China's first overseas military base. But I'm sure it was just a coincidence. There are a ton of other projects as well. And the results? Cracks have started to show. The Ethiopia light rail ended up consuming a quarter of Ethiopia's 2016 budget. Nigeria had to renegotiate its deal with Chinese contractors because it couldn't pay up. Kenya's railway went 4 times over the original budget, or 6% of its GDP. And in 2012 alone, the IMF found that China owned 15% of Africa's external debt. And by 2015, 2/3 or 66% of all new loans were coming from China. So right now the debt is still manageable. But it all depends on how profitable these infrastructure projects end up being, and how much more debt, how much more rocket fuel these countries take on in the future.
Do you think they're using the same tactics of, questionable studies, manipulating the statistics that you talked about in your book?
Well, let me give a couple of examples of the terrible mistakes that China's made. So, and I'll go back to Ecuador, a country that I know well, but in a book I'm writing now, I call Ecuador the canary in China's cage, because I think it serves as a warning. They built a huge hydroelectric plant there that was supposed to serve more than 30% of the country's capacity.
Yeah, so that example is what we are currently experiencing in Zambia, because we saw Edgar Lungu getting and we're very excited about the hydroelectricity power station. So all these things, they have happened in other countries, and the examples and the outcomes are plain to see. But, anyway, let's continue.
Yeah. The biggest hydroelectric plant ever built. And they built it on a fault line next to an active volcano in a very sensitive ecosystem in the rainforest.
As for politics, there's actual evidence that Chinese debt has had an effect. A study by AidData found that if an African country recognizes Taiwan as a country, they get on average 2.7 fewer infrastructure projects per year. If an African nation happens to cast the same votes as China in the United Nations, they'll get on average 1.8 more infrastructure projects per year. And this is just one stat that shows the influence of Chinese debt that we're able to quantify. On the other side of the story, when you look at these African countries, the majority of them actually happily welcome Chinese investment, which is understandable.
And China's done more in Africa than anywhere. I don't care. You could say UK, America, Germany, British. I don't care who you call. No one's done more work in China to benefit Africans than the Chinese.
They've been very clear that they're about trade and that they're not about influencing a country's policies. We were very clear that we wanted to influence countries' policies.
Africa saw China's astronomical growth from very similar humble beginnings in the 1900s, and they hope that they can replicate China's success.
China, we developed, that's the other thing, that they can show over 30 years, they had economic growth of more than 10%. That's never happened before in history, at least in any history that any of us can find. And, you know, they got rid of 800, they brought 800 million people out of poverty, which is more than the whole rest of the world combined.
The infrastructure has had a net positive on African countries in terms of living standards, jobs, and so forth. And Chinese infrastructure is also cheaper than Western construction with, on the surface, less strings attached.
With Chinese assistance, it gives a long-term payback, which most Africans enjoy. And also the West do not give a long-term payback. So most Africans are kind of like locked in with that, and they prefer that.
Politicians don't have to worry about the US shoving democracy down their throats.
We'd much rather take loans and aid from China than the United States because they don't make these demands on us. And they've never assassinated one of our leaders.
But as the former governor of Nigeria's central bank said, we must see China for what it is, a competitor. Africa must recognize that China, like the US, Russia, Britain, Brazil, and the rest, is in Africa not for African interests, but its own. I think the relationship between Africa and the Chinese government is probably a lot like the relationship between the Chinese government and Chinese entrepreneurs. As long as you're moving in the same direction as their agenda, all is well. But as soon as you step out of line, the sickle comes down.
The challenge is when they start to see that entrepreneur is a threat to the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, then they can be taken down a notch. And so in the meantime, those entrepreneurs are richly rewarded by having preferential treatment from the government in terms of rules and regulations, but also access to capital. And the motivation is, I can get really, really wealthy. And maybe I can get really, really wealthy. I can establish a nest egg outside the country, and maybe I can actually leave the country, as many have. So they've moved their assets out, they've gotten rich, and then they've escaped China.
So what do you think of China's involvement in the region? The same country where re-education camps, disappearing billionaires like Jack Ma, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and a whole host of other...
Yeah, so anyway, that's the gist of it. So it's a very eye-opening type of documentary that everybody needs to watch, and we need to understand how the game is being played. And you know, personally, I do not have anything against anything against China. I do understand it's just, you know, competition, and they're basically trying to survive and they're trying to expand. But as Zambians, we need to know what to look out for, and you know, how to avoid being indebted and trapped, because it doesn't really make any sense. Even from a domestic example, if I know as Mnalula, I do not have the capacity to buy a brand new Pajero, the latest one, why should I go in debt and then have my daughter put as collateral and tell my daughter saying, it's okay, you can be raping my daughter or my children. It doesn't really make any sense. So the best thing that we need to do, as much as we want these infrastructure developments, first of all, we need to have the capacity. I need to, as Mnalula, I need to work, first of all, create value, and then be able to afford this nice Pajero, nice Range Rover. Then I can buy it. That's the secret. Anyway,
yes, what you've done is just exactly what China's aim is. Like they say, it's not direct control they want, but it's an indirect control. They are coming in the disguise of infrastructure. And the foolishness of Africans is, oh yeah, infrastructure. But you have no plan for the infrastructure that you are trying to create. The problem is there's no planning. Just like we have seen all these furrows being dug from here and there, where there's no beginning and no end, you know. It's that kind of infrastructure Chinese wants. Chinese know the strategic plan is to get what type of infrastructure they've got. You're talking about ZESCO. They've got ZESCO. You're talking about the airports. They've got the airports. So now, what is happening within the Zambia? Here is now, they're building now, like just a guy said, the infrastructure of now housing. I've seen Lilai there, they're doing some, infrastructure, which is, the problem is, I don't know who is this planners, the town planners. I don't know why they are, I don't know if they are engineers or they're just dumb or they've been paid. Because if you just building infrastructure, without knowing that who is going to support this infrastructure, because the people are not having money. The people, China is squeezing money. China is taking money through the Chinese bank. You've got a Chinese bank, and that bank, I think they need to have closed that bank. You need to close that bank. Let there be no Chinese bank in our land so that we can have, they've got their bank. So every Chinese, it goes to bank their money in the bank, in the Bank of China. So we're losing cash. They're stripping us of everything. So here is a government which comes in and try to bring up, to lay the foundation, to make the community, to make the lowest people to begin to have income and skills. The CDF is a good plan, because once you put up a plan on CDF, that which develops the constituency, and the people are educated and are trained, we will start now developing our own infrastructure and start knowing what is it that we need to do. We need to begin to think, what can we create for ourselves? We've got all the material on the earth that which we need to develop. So we need to start doing that and take control of the infrastructures, that which China has done. Especially on the mining, we need to think, like the president has said, we need to remove the foreigners being in control. We needed to have a percentage, 50-50 possibly, so we can get back our economy, our finances in order, because there's no way you can just be giving the Chinese to build structures when your people are starving. And that's what is to happen in the PF. Every infrastructure is being built by Chinese. They even build anywhere and nobody told. Ali King Kata Road, they built a structure right by the road and having to, this is not, we need some planners and some thinkers. So basically, the council needs to wake up. Whoever is sitting there as the town planner needs to be fired. Let's bring in some fresh blood, fresh ideas. It's time to get these guys not to get off if they're just hanging a jacket behind the chair saying they are working. This is the time to have fresh brains from the youth and let the youth be trained. You have so much, you're talking about universities. University, what is the university for? We need to have research and development from the university. Most of the university here, that's where the development comes from. Universities are businesses this end now. They've got a business part which makes any prototype, they do the invention. Even most of the Africans who are coming here, they are spending time into those universities and developing ideas which are being stolen by the white people. So you're talking about things that, we can do in Zambia, we can do in Africa, but because we are running away to other countries to go and give the brains and use the takeover and begin to exploit us and sell us back what we can do. So most of this, I mean, I'm talking from the experience because I just feel now that I need to.
What happened? That you've got
No,
a call?
it was my wife. Yeah, I'll ring her later.
She misses you.
Yeah, she forgot that I told her I'll ring her on the corner.
Yeah, anyway, we're about to conclude, so tell her not to worry.
Yeah, I will. She knows that I'll go on there. So basically, what I'm saying, you see, all these, the things that these guys were talking about. I've heard that this is probably my fourth time to listen to this documentary because I had to replay it, and my wife I was so angry. I said, this is exactly what is happening.
Textbook, exactly what's happening in Zambia. It's more like he was making that documentary from observing Zambia.
Yeah, the structure the Chinese are building, the airport, it's just nothing but steel structure. How can a civil engineer fail to do that? A Zambian civil engineer, how can you fail to do that? It looks like a posh thing, but it's nothing else but just a structure, metal structure. And the metal is, you have it. Why do you want to give it to Chinese to do it?
Because in the clauses, these projects are given to Chinese companies, and these Chinese companies have got their own people. So it begins from the debt sort of accrual. When you're getting the debt, you need to accept all these clauses and all these stipulations. So a Zambian engineer can't lobby for these jobs because they won't be given.
That's true. That's true. Because why would you in the first place agree to such a terms? Because the terms are all, it's literally like you're agreeing, can we lock you up first in the prison, then we get you. That's when we're gonna get you some food.
The reasons go on. Sorry.
This is what they've done to Zambia. The ZESCO is a very major infrastructure for Zambia, and
key strategic asset.
It is. Because now they are even blackmailing you. Why are we having such a situation?
Exactly.
The president is losing
at State House. And we shouldn't take it lightly. ZESCO is under siege. This is a political statement, and a lot of Zambians just think all of a sudden we're having load shedding. That's how. This is what happens when you owe people and they feel they need to have certain perks. Right now, the UPND has disrupted a lot of things. And trust me, our friends from the East are not happy.
No, they're not. They're not, because they want to, they're trying to, they've lost that control now, which they could just walk into Lungu's State House and say, okay, can we have this? Can we do this? All these infrastructures, the building, they are not even worth it. I went to, Olympia in Lusaka, there's they built a compound, I think Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
The place is empty now. There's nobody buying it. The few guys that rushed to buy early, they're selling a 2-bedroom house for 1.5 million. I said, when I went there, looked at the structure, I said, who in hell can live here? The tiles are already peeling out. The roof, the ceiling is so short, like they measured according to the Chinese height. So I just said, this is crazy. Who gave them the contract? They've built, they got paid and left. Now it's a ghosty estate. There's nobody in there. Nobody's buying because the thing is falling apart. I said, this is all because of ignorance. The people were just interested in money. Taking the money, and Chinese are making money, sucking the money out of the country. And
where was Tasila Lungu? Where was Tasila Lungu? Where was Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba? These are the things that we need to be talking about. And I'm just going to genuinely call them out. Raphael Nakinchinda, stop politicking for a few coins. We've got a large population to look out for, and we need not to just think about our own selfish benefits. Tasila Lungu, where were you when these loans were being contracted. Why didn't you
Imagine.
speak out? Everybody,
She made money. She
You
made
know.
money because it's a father who was in control. So she was the one even spearheading some of the deals. So this is not right. So from now on, from next year, Zambia will be empowering the youth, the community, the grassroots of Zambian should start to have money, and let's begin. The government should now concentrate about paying off China. If possible, I would say get the loan somewhere from a reasonable competitor and pay off China, and let's get them off our back and begin to work to
Right.
restructure our economy. Because these PF, they are so much indebted with China because they were paid, and they, that's why they offered China so many contracts, which ended up, depriving Zambians. And once you do, your country has no businesses, that means you have lost. Small scale industries is totally gone. There's nobody, you can't sell anything because people have no money. This is crazy. So we need to remove these debts. It needs to be paid off quickly, if possible. Go and like the president said, we need to restructure this by going to get a better term dues and pay off the other term deals,
which is
so
bad.
we can start, and let's take over our ZESCO back. Let's take over our, mines back. This is what we need. We
Exactly.
need to bring back the power to the people again, like he has started. So let's support him. Let the constituencies begin to develop, not spending money for useless things. Let the infrastructure begin in the grassroots, and let there be a total control of Zambians having and build their own shops and not running to Chinese shops every now and then. Let's have our own infrastructure. This
Right.
is what you bring them down, and they will see that surely Zambia is up for a different development.
Exactly. And it's not really going to be that easy. And this is one of the reasons why I'm calling out all the people who are watching me. Guys, we need to be steadfast. We need to support this government because they've got the interest of the people at large. And
Exactly.
I also want to talk about something which is very sensitive. When it comes to President Hichilema and the whole team, right? He has to be very, very careful because he has disrupted a lot of things. And in the beginning, he was very security conscious, the gloves and just being very careful. I want him to continue that spirit because, we need this man. And if anything, God forbid, happens, Zambia is going to be set back even 100 more years. So we need to protect President Hakainde, and we also need to understand how the game is being played, and we also need to know that there's going to be pushbacks because they are obviously going to not let us slip through easily. There's going to be some tough times, there's going to be some pushbacks here and there, but we have to understand long-term triples over all the short-term type of suffering. So this is very important. This is a very sensitive topic. I don't even know why we even got into this particular topic, but it is what it is. Somebody has to say it, because if we do not speak out, Raphael Nakinchinda is going to misinform the nation.
The public, yes.
Exactly. We're going to have situations where people like Raphael Nakinchinda, who were benefiting from these, loans, they were the only ones who were getting all the perks. They're going to come back and they're going to have mileage. And when that happens, they'll again take us back from where we are coming from. So it's very important to let Nakinchinda know that, the youths of Zambia understand the game plan. Ufi, Muleke, all these infrastructure developments, we know the expense and the cost and what it means for our people. So I am really, really disappointed in Honorable Raphael Nakinchinda. This is something which is despicable. So I don't know. I've got no words for these types of people. It's so frustrating.
It is, because these guys they had no interest for the people while they were in power. Where can they bring that interest from? They are not interested in that because, one, they're still being held by the string of the people that paid them. You see? So those people that paid them, they're trying to make them saying, oh no, we are coming back. Oh, we are coming back in 2026. We are coming back because, no, don't worry. Everything will be back to their normal, which is their corruption lifestyle, which is the Chinese system is not straightforward. It's always corrupt. Everywhere they've gone is corrupt. So this is what the president is trying to get rid of this. So we pray the Lord to protect our president, cover him by the blood of Jesus, and the angels to encamp around him, and no evil shall befall him, neither shall any plague come near his dwelling. He shall live long, he shall finish his program, he shall finish his mandate, he shall finish his destiny, he shall remove Zambia from the pit of death which the PF have created. We shall make sure that Zambia shall be free again. We are not free. We are not free. As long as we haven't got economic power, we are not free. So we need to start getting ourselves liberated from these, the political, which corrupt people, which the clique of thieves who messed up our nation. So we need to get them out of, never to come back in power, because they are hoping they can come back in 2026. And if they happen to come back, which God forbid, they will literally strip off the whole country. All
Definitely.
the CDF will go, it will just go back into their pockets. So these guys, not to mention them, they should never get back. I think it's time to start educating the youth. Muna, you have the media. It's time to start educating the youth to say, youth, wake up. You can't put people that have destroyed the country back into power. Even PF youth, wake up. You've been used so much for a long time. You've been used, you've been paid pecks and peanuts, and now you still want to support these guys? No. It's time you started moving out of PF and begin to join other parties, perhaps. Not this PF. PF, let it be extinct. Let's be a dinosaur for the never to be remembered in Zambia again. These guys were worse than the devil.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Mtonga.
Thank you so much.
Your wife is waiting for you, and I'm also hungry. We need to conclude this.
Exactly, my friend.
All right.
That's true.
All right. So have a great night. Zambia, be blessed. Mulova lehande, lukabonana kamuso. We'll probably have, it depends on the topic. If there's going to be enough interesting topics, then we'll be back again. Because, we are dedicated to these topics. We need to have Zambia liberated.
Amen. Amen.
All right. Okay.
So have a good night.
You too. Enjoy.
Thank you.